Welcome to Raceway Park, the Gambler. If you guys are joining us here on the live stream, welcome. We are about to get our top 32 battles started here at the second to last round here at Raceway Park for the Gambler. Make sure you guys check out the website and get signed up for the next round in November. At this time, I'm going to need all of our drivers competing in the top 32 to start to report to the grid. I repeat, our top 32 drivers start reporting to the grid. Media personnel, please report to your stations right now. Media personnel, please report to your stations immediately. All right, we got our first battle getting warmed up in the burnout box back on the backside here at Raceway Park's road course. I'm joined by our 3 judges for this round of the Gambler, Kenrick Meyer, Chris Knapp, and Jeff Stoneback. I'm also joined here with Sarah. Sarah, why don't you give the crowd here and at home in the live stream a short introduction of why you're here helping me do what I do.
Good morning, English Town. My name is Sarah. If you guys are not familiar with me, I used to be a spotter. Hello. I watch a lot of drifting. I have a lot to say, so I'm here to help Mike not sound so stupid. Back to you.
And there you have it, straight from the smarter person of the duo, Sarah. Make some noise for her. She'll be helping me out here at the Gambler. It looks like we have our first battle up on the line already. Tim Frito Wilson sitting there with that blue BMW going up against Nick D'Alessio. And here we go. We got our first battle here at the round on the road course of the E-Town Gambler. Frito in the lead with that blue BMW going into outside zone 1 is Nick D'Alessio trying to put the pressure on, trying to match that BMW's angle going through the completion of outer 1 into outer 2. They curl back into inside clip number 1 as D'Alessio showing a little bit of patience, letting Frito work his way through those 2 inside clips as both drivers work to their outside line. Frito falls into that outside zone, but D'Alessio's not far behind him as both drivers work into that outside. Frito a little outside on that wide line as D'Alessio holds his composure, goes through the hairpin here, flicks down to that reference point and back up to the final outside zone. Frito up on the wall across the finish line. Make some noise for our first battle here of Tim Frito and Nick D'Alessio.
Yeah, that was a great job by Frito. He was looking good yesterday, but today he's looking a lot faster, a lot more on point. He always loves to go super wide in the hairpin, which is what we saw here. Maybe a little bit of a slow up, but he did have D'Alessio knocking on his door, so looks like a good run to me.
I do know the man himself, Barry's out there helping Frito get that thing tuned in this weekend. Maybe a little extra Barry sauce in the mix here. We got our drivers back up in the line. Nick D'Alessio now sitting in that lead position, sitting behind that E-Town drag tree, repurposed out here on the road course to be our new Drift Go light. Those guys will be operating off of a Pro tree. The orange and ambers will illuminate, and the drivers have to wait for the green where they'll navigate through a chicane similar to our Pro Series Brethren Formula Drift. These drivers are then required to work their way through our course here with one big outside zone number 1 through turn 1 up to outside zone number 2, curls into that first inside clip and back out. And our guys working, as you can see here, through the hairpin where they'll have to go through a reference point that is for our judges and drivers. We want our car's behavior through that reference point to be nice and fluid. We don't want to see our drivers trying to manipulate the car's behavior too obscene in front of that bank wall where it has taken already a few victims throughout the weekend here today. I think we're waiting on our judges, okay? Yeah, they're finished deliberating over our first lap here. We got Nick D'Alessio now sitting in the lead going up against Tim Wilson. And here we go, the green lights are illuminated. Nick D'Alessio now in that lead with that S13 coupe. The very same car he competed with at around 2013 in Formula Drift as Tim Frito's closing the door up going into outside zone number 1. Frito definitely applying that berry sauce all to the outside of Nick D'Alessio's S13 as they work their way to the second outside zone and down to inside clip number 1 as Frito's right there, making sure D'Alessio knows his presence. The BMW right on the backside of the coupe going into the next outside zone. D'Alessio a little shy going outside zone, and Frito just following him in delicately, working that BMW to the outside of that S13 of Nick D'Alessio as they work their way to the hairpin, down to the backside. Tim Frito showing oh no, Tim Frito with a major mistake going into the bank in the final turn.
You hate to see it, Mike. That was going to be an amazing chase run by Frito. I'm not sure what happened there in the last outer zone, but he really tossed that one away. That's unfortunate.
It looks like the car just took a little too much bite. Let's look here on the replay. As you can see, Frito just massaging on the backside of the S13 of Nick D'Alessio. And both drivers, as they flick back into that hairpin, Frito forced to take a slightly shorter line, taking the bike through, and maybe lost a little bit of wheel speed here. You can see him trying to get the car back under control and just unfortunately did not get the bite through the bank that he needed. Our judges are now deliberating over the runs, and it looks like we do have a verdict. And unfortunately, after a solid chase run from Tim Frito, Nick D'Alessio will get the win. Nick D'Alessio moves on. Revert to grid. Revert, please report to grid for your battle. At this time, this is a friendly reminder to our drivers and crew. If you are competing in the top 32, we need you out in the hot pits immediately. As you guys are aware, here at the Gambler, we have Gambler tokens working their way through our qualified drivers, and unfortunately, Tim Frito was holding on to that Drift HQ Gambler token. That means Nick D'Alessio is going to steal that token and work his way through the battles here, trying to double its value with each win. If you guys are unfamiliar with our Gambler token system, our drivers are awarded at random throughout their qualifying a Gambler token thanks to Drift HQ, TireStacks.com, South Bay Fuel Injectors, Freedom Motorsports, and East Coast Drift School. Those sponsors have thrown out some money for our drivers to gamble with here at the Gambler. Each driver that has been awarded one of those tokens has the choice throughout their battle to either put it in their pocket or gamble it away. They can put it onto the table where they'll have to take a win, where that token will then double its value in monetary. They start out at $25 and each win doubling it, making it 50, 100, and so on, with the final values locking in to the finals, where our drivers here not only could take away their winnings here today for winning the whole event, as well as to all the Gambler token values and our last man standing pot. Our next two battle drivers are back up on the line. We have Revert piloting that silver S13 hatch, going up against the Hopquake himself, Brian Hopp. And we also have a TireStacks.com Gambler token sitting on Revert's S13 hatch. He has $25 to play with here in this battle coming up. And here we go. Jimmy taking that lead position in that S13 hat, getting chased down by Brian. Brian with a chassis he repurposed after the last Gambler and taking a couple mishaps to his frame. Both drivers working their way through outside zone number one as Brian Hopp putting the, as Jimmy works his way into that next outside zone. Brian Hopp's not shortly behind him. Got to stay out of there in that front inside clip. He's giving them the real estate to work as Jimmy's starting to put the sauce down now as they're working their way to that next outside zone. Jimmy just avoiding that outside zone, getting in there late as Hopp trying to follow his line into that outside as both drivers work their way into the hairpin. Jimmy avoiding that outside zone, but Brian Hopp standing behind that silver S13 of Jimmy as both drivers go down to our last outside zone here up at the bank at Raceway Park. Jimmy getting up nice and close personal as Brian Hopp showcasing he can hang right there with him.
Well, I think you guys will agree that Hopp came to party because that was a nuts chase run. Even though these cars are both S chassis, they could not be more different. We have Revert in the silver S chassis. He is powered by a V8, and Hopp is just hanging on tight with that VQ.
He's got a plenum spacer in there, you know that? He's got like one big old plenum spacer. But this is the same motor, the same suspension. Majority of the body panels from another car, he got repurposed into another S13. He took out over on the Gambler over in the stadium on the other side of the complex here at Raceway Park. So it was super cool to see Brian put that hustle in and get that car set up back together to be able to throw down a chase run behind Jimmy Revert here at Raceway Park, the Gambler. It looks like we're set for the second half of our battle here as Brian Hopp, the Hopquake himself, has now taken that lead position where Jimmy Revert will have to chase. Like that weird calm before the storm. It's like, can we get some feet stomping for a Hopquake? All right, sorry. We'll just play by ourselves here. It looks like the ambers are illuminated. We're waiting for our drivers to get the green light to let this battle commence. When I move, you move. Somebody move. Oh, there we go. A little communication breakdown there as we get everybody back into speed. Our driver's sitting on the line, ready to go. Our ambers are illuminated, waiting for that drag pro tree to illuminate that green light and let Brian Hopp start the second half of this battle here and take that lead position going up against Jimmy in that silver S13 hatch. Brian initiates well before our last initiation point, working his way into outside zone number 1. A tad shy, but starting to get it in there now, nice and deep. Jumps through the dirt as Jimmy falls into position right behind Brian Haas, S13. As Jimmy's starting to apply the pressure as Brian works his way through outside zone number 2. Bolt drivers work their way into that inside clip. Jimmy's S13 taking out that inside clip cone as bolt drivers work their way past the second. Jumping into that next outside zone. Brian Hopp getting nice and deep, but Jimmy Revert not far behind him, putting that pressure on right to the outside. Almost a mirror image of both S13s as Jimmy had to fall a little behind off his line as Brian Hopp falls out of that wide side. Both drivers transition down to that reference point. Jimmy a little higher into the dirt as both drivers go up into the bank wall. As both drivers cross over the finish line, an exciting battle here from Brian Hopp and Jimmy Revert.
Yeah, not to be outdone, that was an excellent chase as well. You'd be surprised that Hopp can keep up and lead really nice with that engine, but he is a regular here at Club Loose, and he definitely shreds in that thing. We have a lot of Hopp fans here in the stands, so we'll see if the judges have a verdict for us.
I also know Jimmy's no rookie out here. He has a few experience laps under his belt, and he's looking to showcase that he was capable of taking out Brian Hopp, the Hopquake himself, here at Raceway Park, the Gambler. Our judges are reviewing the very same footage that you guys are seeing here at live stream at home. If you are joining us here at Raceway Park, thank you for coming out and joining us here on this beautiful day, this beautiful Sunday here in New Jersey. You guys can see the exact same live stream footage that you guys on the internet are seeing at home. Make sure you guys tune in to the Facebook and YouTube for the live stream. And it looks like our judges do have a verdict. They're going to go one more time. We're going to send Brian Hopp and Jimmy Revert one more time. Jimmy doing a great job in his chase as well as Brian Hopp. And Sarah, do you want to put a little bit of insight of why our judges made that decision?
Absolutely, Mike. So I believe Hopp had a little bit better of a line when comparing both of the lead runs. However, Hopp did go 3 tires off in the exit of outer zone 1. So that's definitely going to ding him, and it's going to put a little bit of a shadow on what would otherwise be a pretty decent lead run. So we're going to send him again, see if these guys can clean it up a bit and get him on the second try.
All right, and then on the other side of the fence, we're getting the word from our judges that Jimmy had missed the outside zones through his lead run. As confident and fluid as his driving style was, he needs to be slightly deeper in our judges' eyes to get the points he needed to offset. Both our drivers now know exactly what needs to be done on the other side of this battle as they will face it one more time. We're going to bring up our next 2 battle contestants. We have John Da Silva versus Diavia. And here we go. Our next battle up on the line, John versus Raphael. Raphael in that purple 350Z in the chase. John sitting in that S13 hatch in the lead position. Both drivers working their way through outside zone number 1. Raphael taking a short line, very tight, trying to fall into position behind John De Silva's S13 hatch as both drivers working their way to that first inside clip, and Raphael shuts it down in that purple 350Z, following him in, trying to reinitiate. And a tad aggressive from Raphael. I know those guys were having a slight issue with a boost leak. Their intake manifold kept cracking welds out. So coming into a factor while Raphael was unable to chase John De Silva's line out throughout here. It doesn't sound like his 350Z, that 2J underneath the hood, is happy with that intake manifold cracks. Yeah, unfortunately, that's definitely not what we want to see out of Raphael. Both our drivers will get spun back around. We'll get them swapped in position. We hope Raphael's 350Z is suitable for a lead lap going up against John De Silva's S13 hatch. All right, we're corralling our drivers back around. Raphael in that purple 350Z. Unfortunately, just a little too much sauce going into that bottom second to last, third to last outside zone. My fault. But we got Raphael back up in the line, going up against John De Silva in that S13 coupe or S13 hatch. I'll figure it out one of these times. They're all drift cars or something. Our drivers are back up on the line. The ambers are illuminated. Our judges are ready. I think they're illuminated. It may just be this beautiful sunlight coming in and warming up this Sunday here in Englishtown, New Jersey at Raceway Park. While we're waiting for our drivers to get the green light, we'd like to thank you guys for joining us here at Raceway Park for The Gambler and also on the live stream, both in Facebook and YouTube. A big shout to all you fans, both here and at home. We thank you guys for joining us. We thank you for listening to me, and most importantly, thank you for supporting drifting. Anyway, and I stall any more here. Oh, thank you. All right, well, Sarah, you know, this is why you're here, to make me sound better, so. We are waiting for our drivers here shortly, and I'll just shut up at this point. We're unsure what is happening. We're going to get on the radios to make some communication calls here. Just hang tight. All right. It looks like we're just getting communication through our drivers and then through our systems here at Raceway Park. And it seems that Raphael is going to call his Competition 5 timeout to try to figure out or make a fix to that purple 350Z that's suitable for his lead lap here at the Gambler. With that being said, we're going to get our drivers back into the pits. Raphael's going to take a look at that purple 350Z. John De Silva is going to get put on ice a little bit as we're going to wrangle up our next competing drivers, Essie versus Ramos. I stand corrected. We're going to bring that one more time battle up again. It's against Jimmy Revert and Brian Hopp. Jimmy Revert holding on to that TireStacks.com Let It Ride token. Make sure that you guys pay attention to these gambler tokens as they're going to double in value with every win from these drivers. These guys are going to walk away with a couple $100 extra bucks in their pocket after today's victories. We're going to gather up Brian Hopp and Jimmy Revert. She says, hang tight, and we'll get back to the action here shortly. All right, it looks like we have gathered up our one more time battle drivers back up in the line. Jimmy Revert in that silver S13 hatch going up against Brian Hopp in that repurposed, reshelled S13 with that VQ with a plenum spacer sitting in the chase position. Jimmy in the lead. And they got the green light as both drivers working their way down the straight and initiate. Well before our last initiation point as Brian Hopp falls in the rotation right behind Jimmy Revert, that 13 hat. Both drivers working their way through outside zone number 1 as Brian Hopp sitting there on a tighter line, smacks right behind Jimmy and going in outside zone number 2. As both drivers working the way to that first inside clip as Jimmy a little off that inside clip. As both drivers work through that next inside clip, as Jimmy's back on the line, as Hopp gives him a little bit of space to fall back. Jimmy falls right into that outside zone, starts to curl back into the hairpin as Brian Hopp is starting to fall behind. A little bit of horsepower difference up to Jimmy's S13. As Hopp keeping a little shallower, jumps at the side of Jimmy and shuts it down. And they made contact. You just got that one. I feel you, bud. Mine didn't even last 72 hours. Oh, so Jimmy had a shutdown. It looks like his car's still off and out of power. And Brian Hopp trying to close that gap through the hairpin here. You guys can, at home on the replay, on the live stream, can see Jimmy working his way into that third to last outside zone as Brian Hopp trying to follow him in. That lower horsepower VQ trying to get the bark back through that hairpin. Brian makes a slight sacrifice to get back to the side and starts to bark at the side of Jimmy, and with anticipation of Jimmy throwing all of that horsepower down at the asphalt with nothing to come of it, Jimmy hitting the brakes, shutting it down, forcing Brian Hopp's hand.
Yeah, that's unfortunate because I think Jimmy understood the assignment thus far. He had gotten every single zone until something happened right after that hairpin zone. and he shut it down. So that was going to be a great run. Obviously, Hopp's doing what Hopp does. He's pretty much all over him for the whole time. But we're going to have to take a look at that point on the track where the drifting stops, make sure everything is kosher and understood, and then go from there.
While our judges are deliberating over that little incident we've had here, it's really difficult to put into perspective of what's going on identically into every car that's happening out here. But you can see on the replay, Jimmy coming in with the great fluidity and confidence. Even though he's missing an inside clip, he's holding that fluidity throughout the car, through the course, allowing Brian the real estate to work to try to catch back up with that lower horsepower VQ, with that obviously more wheel speed and tire smoke pummeling off of Jimmy's back of the car, thus making Brian have to make his decision sooner than he probably wants to just make sure that he's where he needs to be behind Jimmy's faster vehicle. And then when Jimmy shut it down, that just made so that Brian had nowhere left to go, already putting in the inputs to try to get the jump on Jimmy. And as we gather our next set of drivers onto the line, it looks like it's going to be a bye run for De Silva. Unfortunately for Rafael, unable to get that 350Z fixed and back onto the grid. So John De Silva is going to take a bye run here. He needs to showcase that his car is suitable for competition. And then he will move into our top 16. He will see battle up against Mike Knapp, the man himself. John De Silva pulling up to the line for his bye run. He'll just need to showcase that that vehicle is still suitable and fit for competition here at Raceway Park, the Gambler.
Now, Mike, I did want to ask you here, does he have to drift this entire run?
No, it is not required that he does drift his run. He has the option to just showcase that the car is capable of moving under its own power, which it looks like it is. He can then choose to drift or drive. If the car needs some cooling down, he can drive through the course here, or if he would like to just get a little more data for himself and his team, he can take some drifting. Some guys just go out to put on a show for you guys back at home, so sit back and enjoy John De Silva taking his bye run here at the Gambler, throwing him up into the top 16, where he'll see battle against Mike Knapp. Our next battle up on the line, Ezzy versus Jabbar Ramos. Ezzy sitting with that South Bay Fuel Injectors Gambler token. He's probably going to let it ride. It's only $25 value, Sarah. Most of these guys hang on to their $25 let it ride tokens. Most of these guys hang on to it for majority of everything. Have you seen anything weird through the let it ride tokens, or actually any of the numerous amount of ways to make money around here?
Yeah, I think they add a little something to the competition because for the most part, I've seen a lot of the guys leave the token on their car. They're going to put that money out to bet. Now, if they win, they can double it. If they lose, it goes to the person who beat them. So at the end of the day, if everyone is letting it ride, the one who wins this competition will have a pretty big prize on top of the already prize for winning. So.
And on top of that, I also added in a little last man standing pot where I have our drivers throw in cash values for a last man in competition standing throughout that pot, where that winner will take that entire winnings as well. We're sending in John De Silva off our track here, and we got our drivers on the grid. You can see this beautiful shot from our drone guys. A big shout out to our live stream crew for making this possible for you guys both here, our judges, and at home. We hope you guys enjoy this next battle coming up with Ezzy sitting with that South Bay Fuel Injectors Let It Ride token going up against Jabbar Ramos. And both drivers coming down the straight and initiate. Ezzy in the lead, that S13 coupe with Jabbar Ramos right behind him. Both drivers working their way through outside zone number 1. Ezzy just on that inside line of that outside zone as both drivers working their way to that next outside zone as Jabbar falls in the formation into that inside clip and starting to put the pressure on as Ezzy working that S13 back up a little off of that second inside clip, but a ton of speed to get him out to that wide line to that next outside zone. And you see Ramos trying to clean up that real estate, jump back to him, going into the hairpin. Ramos had to take a little shorter line there. Ezzy nice and wide throughout the hairpin as both drivers transition down to our reference point and back up. The last outside zone, Ezzy right on the wall. Right on the wall. Matt Essie makes some noise for him with Jabbar, Ramos, and Chase.
Yeah, that was a great run. You might have noticed a bit of a bobble on that first inner clip. That's a tough zone because the drivers have to get their car right up to that cone right in the center of the track. And if the chase car is not anticipating a bit of a slowdown before that, it could choke them up like we saw here just now.
It's definitely my least favorite clip out here on the track is that first inside clip. It forces our drivers to take a definitely technical line throughout coming down into that next inside clip. These drivers have been battling it out even through practice. Some of these guys even crashing their cars, taking out suspension components. I know Doug Santana already ripping off a corner, getting it back out before even the end of practice. These guys are out for blood today. As you can see, Jabbar Ramos stepping into the most technical part of the course here on the road course at the Gambler. And Essie using that little bit of sacrifice to that second inside clip to try to build that speed for that wider line of that next outside zone. Essie's piloting, that's an SR car? So an SR20 powered S13 coupe going up against Ramos's, I believe, a basically stock VQ 350Z. He also owns a LS 350Z, but I think that one, I don't think that's the comp car. I think he's out here vibing with the VQ. All right, we got our drivers back up in the line. We're looking and waiting for Jabbar Ramos to take the lead and Matt Ezzy to chase. And it looks like we got a clean start out of the chicane, and you can see that drone coming out through the trees with a beautiful shot of that straightaway all the way down. As you can see, Jabbar Ramos working his way into that outside zone number 1, and as he falls right behind him, as he falling a little behind as Ramos starts to cut his line in, as he starts to build that wheel speed back up for outside zone number 2 to get back out wide. As both drivers working in that inside clip, as he giving him a little bit of space through those inside clips to let Jabbar Ramos' 350Z behave the way it wants. As both drivers start to work their way to that third to last outside zone. Jabbar Ramos doing a great job as he's still not far behind him. As both drivers working their way into their hairpin, as he's starting to try to jump into formation now on the exit of the hairpin outside zone. As both drivers work past the reference point. Right over it is Jabbar Ramos right back on the wall as he trying to fall right behind him. As he not far behind the entire lap here at Raceway Park the Gambler.
Yeah, that was a great job by both drivers. I did notice that Jabbar cut that first outer zone a little bit short. The judges are definitely going to take that into consideration. Now, for those of you watching at home, you guys have the drone footage that we have, and the drone tells no lies. So there's no room for error. We're going to see every single little correction and bobble there. So you definitely have to put it all out there to make sure we don't notice what you're doing.
I mean, it's definitely today's day and age. Everything's on the internet at this point, and you can see all the action here at Raceway Park the Gambler thanks to our live stream crew. And also a big shout out to our media guys hanging out there in the field, in the bunkers. Big shout out to our media guys and girls out in the bunkers taking pictures for all our content needs when we get home, when we mindlessly scroll through our social medias. All right, it looks like we have our next set of drivers onto the line. Vitor Fernandez piloting that BR Drift Force G35. And Luke Bexler, who is actually hanging on to that Frito Motorsports Let It Ride token. That's valued right now at $25. He's looking to double that money going into his next round with a win here. And unfortunately, those few mistakes out of Jabbar going in from the outer 2 to inner 1 is going to give the win to Matt Essie. Matt Essie gets the win. So Sarah, you bring up a good point. Here's where it gets interesting.
So now, because Ezzy did have that South Bay fuel injector token on his car, and he did get the win, that's going to go from $25 to $50. Because he won, the token is going to double.
Now he'll have the chance with every win to double that money and going into the finals. Also, with any driver that he sees in battle and takes their money, he gets that token as well as that money doubling each win. And you can jump into our next battle where that Freedom Motorsports Let It Ride token is sitting with Bexler, who's sitting in the chase position with that S13 chasing down that BR Group 4. Victor Fernandez, G35. Both drivers working their way through our course here, going through that inside clip number 1. Victor transitions that G35 up past inside clip number 2. Bexler a little bit behind, trying to bark back now as they're working their way into the hairpin. A ton of smoke coming out from the backside of that G35. G35 line, trying to keep up with that monster of a G35 here on the road course.
I mean, as much as we like big, smoky runs, and we do like to see them, you definitely need to get your car in those zones. So we did see Fernandez miss some of those zones. I believe it was most of the outers. So we're going to have to hope that there are some other errors on Bexler's part to sort of even up the playing field. Otherwise, I think it's leaning towards Bexler on this one.
Now this is where something interesting, where most of the time, most cars are built very similar. We have 2 cars that are built probably anywhere near similar in power band, suspension setup, even the chassis, the weights, everything's different on these two machines here. And these drivers are trying to manipulate them to do the exact same thing. And this is where a bunch of driver skill set is going to come into play, where Victor Fernandez is now going to have to mimic Bexler's S13 through our course here at Raceway Park the Gambler. It looks like our drivers are back up on the line. Our judges are finishing up, deliberating over our first half of the battle. I can't get over this drone shot. I really like this drone shot. Man, real artsy. Real big art, guys. All right, Victor Fernandez now sitting in the chase position, going up against Luke Bexler in that lead position. Our judges are ready, so we're waiting for our green light to illuminate. And the ambers are on. And green's on, and it looks like we're going to get a clean start out of Bexler. And both drivers come down the straight. Bexler initiates. Victor with that G35 trying to get right to the side of Bexler with a little bit of a bobble going through outside zone number 1. Bexler transitions out to outside zone number 2. Victor and his G35 not far behind. There's Bexler working the way through that inside clip. Needs to curl back up to that inside clip number 2. With G35 right on the back side of that S13 as Victor Fernandez trying to close that gap up on Bexler's S13 going into the hairpin's outside zone. The G35 with a little bit of a bobble behind Bexler's S13. Reference point for here, right in front of the judges' tower. And Bexler getting high and wide on the line here. And Victor Fernandez trying to do his best to close that gap up through the bank, but had to lock up those front wheels there.
Yeah, so while the judges are deliberating, we can take a look at the replay. Now, I do think these guys, although their cars are completely different, have a bit of a similar style to them. They're definitely looking to go through the course quick. Certain spots here and there, we're missing zones where we need to be in. I do like a nice snappy transition into the hairpin that we're seeing right now, but we didn't see quite as clean of an exit coming out of there. We're definitely going to have to let the judges take the time to deliberate. Each spot on this track, we have more than a few errors going on.
See that? He got a little spicy there on the end. He hit the wall. And Luke Bexler gets the win. Luke Bexler will move on. Bexler doubling that Freedom Motorsports $25 Let It Ride token to $50 going into the top 16. All right, Sarah was just questioning, what happened to Brian and Jimmy? We look up, and we have Brian Hopp sitting in the lead position against Jimmy in the chase.
So if you guys remember, we saw most of a clean run between these two, and then exiting that hairpin outer zone. they pretty much stopped drifting, so the judges had to take a look at that, and they're going to head out right now to do their second lap.
And Brian Hopp in that lead position. Jimmy lagging a little bit behind there on the start, but we had a green. It looks like Jimmy's S13 not powering itself down the straightaway as Brian Hopp looks like he's going to take his lap here. Unfortunate end to Jimmy Revert's battles here today. Car looking solid with a great driving style throughout our battle here, but unfortunately Brian Hopp must have hop-quaked him out as Brian works his way through the rest of the course here. Listen to that VQ with a plenum spacer scream.
Now that's like the fourth plenum spacer comment we've heard from Mike. I honestly can't decide if he is a hater or a big fan of the VQ. Would you care to comment, Mike?
He's a big VQ guy. If you ever see Brian Hopp anywhere, at any event, make sure that you go over and ask him personal questions about his plenum spacer. He loves talking about his VQ. At this time, Brian Hopp's main title sponsor, Premio Sausage, the way sausage should be. Big shout out to Premio Sausage. A big shout out to everybody watching on our live stream, both on Facebook and YouTube. Make sure you guys share that link to your family and friends so they can tune in and listen to me and Sarah banter. Getting text messages from Reese Meyer, and one of our judges here that's usually from our Gambler. Oh, he's just judging in spirit from a distance. Oh, that's cute. Mr. Reese. Send nudes. All right, our next driver's up on the line. And Farrell and Cleverton coming down the straightaway now as both drivers work their way into outside zone number 1. That's 13 Coupe getting deep into the outside. As both drivers working their way through 350Z, doing a little bit of a bobble behind here going in, but falling into formation now. As the S13, as soon as I say that, a little bobble going into the inside clip number 1 as both drivers transition to inside clip number 2. That 350Z falling a little outside of the line of the S13 Coupe as both drivers working their way into the hairpin outside zone. They transition up. The Z settles in a little early, maybe taking a tighter line to that S13 Coupe, and both drivers working their way down to that reference point right in front of their stands and our judges. Both drivers transition up, and a nice solidified ending to a solid first half of the battle here at Raceway Park the Gambler.
Yeah, I think this goes off of what you were talking about earlier, Mike, with two cars that just have completely different setups in them. We have that V8 350Z in the Chase, and the 240, does that have an SR in it?
Actually, I'm unsure what Charlie has underneath.
Yeah, if we have any Charlie fans or crew in the stands and want to let us know, I'm just going to assume it is maybe a turbo.
They're real.
Okay. There we go. We got some Charlie fans in the stands. So it is going to be difficult for a big V8 car to chase that little 240. We saw a couple errors here and there. We're going to see how they do flipped in the opposite position and go ahead and take some notes.
Our judges are deliberating over our first run, our drone footage, the very same footage you guys are getting on the live stream at home. You can see almost everything here at this massive road course at Raceway Park. It's super cool that the Gambler jumps back and forth between here and the same very Gambler stadium course that FD uses at their round 3, 4, I don't know, one of the rounds here, but their New Jersey round of Formula Drift Pro Series is the same stadium course that they use here at the Gambler, and the two courses here being utilized at Raceway Park are some of the best in the country. I know for a fact that this road course is one of my favorite courses to ever drive, and eventually, maybe one day, I can be back out there and let Sarah do all this again.
I would love to, Mike. I'd love to see you back on the track, and here they go.
All right, here we go. Cleverton taking that lead position. Charlie trying to put the pressure back onto the 350Zs. Both drivers working their way to the outside zone number 1. Both drivers trying to figure out what angle they want to stay at as they work their way into outside zone number 2. As they curl back into that first inside clip, as Cleverton avoids that inside clip, as Charlie staying in back, showing a little bit of patience, waiting for that 350Z to fall into the line that the judge has specified. And now Charlie, you can see a little bit of a waiver trying to close up the proximity, getting into those outside zones. But Clemson's 350Z, that LS power underneath, showcasing what it's capable of as he's working and massaging that 350Z through our course here. And Charlie doing his best to mimic Cleverton's car.
Ooh, we got a little bit of a flame there out of the 240. Big fan, big flame guy, that guy. All right, so now we have the replay up on the live stream. You get to see them go in the opposite position. That Z is absolutely cooking through 1 and 2. Hits that first inner clip through the transition. Now, just because he's going fast doesn't mean he's hitting every single zone as best as he should, and the judges are definitely going to take a look at that. But the 240 is knocking on his door, going through the hairpin. He could be a little bit deeper there, but again, we'll take that into consideration and see what the judges have to say.
I do want to put a little bit of a point into that. Charlie is doing a great job showcasing the patience that we were trying to deliver to our drivers through our drivers meeting. Even though his car is a bit twitchy and he is falling in and out of the spectrum of which our judges would like to see, Charlie's doing a great job showcasing that he is capable of holding the car back out of Cleverton's way to allow that lead car to do what it needs to do, but also maintain his proximity in a controlled manner. So a big shout out to Charlie in that chase lap as Cleverton's 350Z giving him some real estate to play in. And we have a winner. Charlie Farrell gets the win. Charlie Farrell gets the win. All right, and with that, we're going to jump right back into our next battle. Sean Murphy going up against Bruno Da Silva. Sean Murphy piloting that 350Z going up against Bruno Da Silva's green E36. Sean Murphy in that 350Z initiates, working his way into outside zone number 1. Clicks in just a tad late, but gets in nice and deep as Bruno Da Silva starting to put the pressure on. And Sean Murphy in that 350Z holding nice and deep in that wide outside zone. Clicks right through outside zone number 2. Needs to curl it off a little offside inside clip number 1. Curls it back into inside clip number 2 as Bruno in that E36 trying to catch back up with that VQ powered 350Z is Sean Murphy. As Sean clicks it back into that outside zone through the hairpin here. He needs to keep it on our track and gets a little deep, but keeps it under control and holds his momentum as Bruno Da Silva showcasing that he can hold it too. As both drivers work their way through that reference points and back up as Sean Murphy on the outside wide line and a little wall tap to finish it off. Make some noise for Sean Murphy and Bruno Da Silva.
Nice job by Murphy there. You did see him get a little bit wide in that hairpin, but I'd say he definitely made up for that in the last outer zone against the wall. Now, if you guys were paying attention, it is 25% off per tire off. So he dipped those tires there, and in that zone, the judges are going to judge that 25% less because of those tire drops. But the fact that he kept it smooth in there seems like only 1 tire off. So I'd say worth it. What do you think, Mike?
I mean, I know that anybody here knows that the hairpin is the dirt drop place, so it is almost out of habit, but Sean Murphy's actually not a seasoned road course driver. Sean actually, his buddies bought his entry here and forced him up here to come up and compete, and Sean Murphy is definitely showcasing that his friends were not wrong for him to be here, as Bruno Da Silva has a ton of laps here in that E36 and is not afraid to put that car into danger to make sure that what he needs to get done gets done.
And I could be mistaken, but I do believe he is the white 350Z that was cleaning up at the Street Legal Series, so he definitely has more than 1 competition under his belt.
Yeah, we definitely have seen Sean traveling around this year. He was also at Hyperfest down with that Pop Style of Motorsports, guys and girls. And then we get right into the second half of our battle here with Bruno Da Silva getting into that outside zone, and Sean Murphy showcasing that VQ powered 350Z can keep up with the E36 of Bruno Da Silva. Sean jumping back, showing a little bit of wheel speed, maybe a strategy here as Bruno Da Silva goes super wide through those zones, and Sean Murphy trying to keep that car in drift behind Bruno Da Silva's line choice, and Sean Murphy showcasing exactly what it takes to fall right back behind Bruno Da Silva's E36 going into the next outside zone. Bruno Da Silva definitely not doing what needs to be done, and Sean Murphy showcasing, hey, I'll wait for you, man. I'll wait here. As Bruno Da Silva burning off what's left of the tires of that E36, and Sean Murphy doing a great job keeping that 350Z out of harm's way.
That's going to be a tough one to judge because I feel like we only got a half of a clean run here to take a look at. He does, Da Silva does the first and second zones pretty nicely, but you'll see him lose it around that inner clip. So the judges are definitely going to take that into consideration when they're looking at the second half of that run.
You can see the reasoning why Chris Knapp himself, the East Coast Drift School, has placed that front inside clip in that positioning to keep cars with a ton of horsepower with just doing a throttle dump down into that next corner there. You can see where that outside zone number 2 leads into inside clip number 1, forces a trajectory out of the higher horsepower cars to turn that car back in, increasing angle sooner into that turn to curl back into that second inside clip. You can see Sean Murphy here on the replay showcasing a ton of patience as Bruno Da Silva's E36 gets back under control, and Sean dumps right back in and showcases that he's right there waiting for the time to play. And the judges have made the decision. Sean Murphy gets the win. Sean Murphy takes the win, jumping into the top 16 here at Raceway Park, the Gambler.
And that's going to wrap up the top 32 here. We're going to get into the top 16 in just a little bit. We're going to give everyone a minute to get set up, and then we'll go ahead and start sending those drivers.
We have a ton of drivers that haven't even seen battle yet here, and it looks like they're going straight into it. News to us up here, but Barack Azar going up against, I believe that's Nick D'Alessio. Barack Azar in that JZ powered E36. And Nick D'Alessio closing right up with that 1J powered S13. Starting to put the proximity back on as Barack Azar making strides and leaps this year. Barack making a spin, and Nick D'Alessio showcasing why he is a veteran, putting his car out of harm's way. Definitely not what we want to see out of Barack in that 2J powered E36, but Nick D'Alessio showcasing a great amount of car control, keeping both cars out of harm.
Yeah, and if you did not know, D'Alessio is a former Formula Drift driver, and if you weren't sure in qualifying yesterday, you can definitely tell now as he glued it to the side of Ozar's car.
Oh, Nick Delicious out there throwing it down. Another Premio Sausage title driver. Premio Sausage the way sausage should be. All right, we got our drivers back up on the line. Nick D'Alessio sitting in that lead position with that 1J powered S13 coupe going up against Barack Azar with that 2J powered E36. Big shout out to Sarah's dad. As Nick D'Alessio enters into our outside zone number 1, as Barack Azar with that 2J powered E36 trying to close that up, as Nick D'Alessio jumps out to that outside zone really oddly, but gets out to the wide lines, leaving Barack Azar in the middle of the track as he's starting to clean it up through outside zone number 2, as both drivers curl into that first inside clip. As Nick D'Alessio at 13 curls around that second inside clip, Barack Azar not far behind him, as both drivers dump into that outside zone. They're working their way through. Nick D'Alessio doing a great job filling that zone and clicks back into that hairpin where he needs to hold a nice wide line. And Barack Azar with that E36 holding that proximity there. Both drivers dump back in. Barack Azar jumps back behind the S13 as Nick D'Alessio jumps in a little shy off that outside zone. Barack Azar follows him over the finish line.
Yeah, that's unfortunate for our first place qualifier, Ozar. That little mistake there on that spin on the infield, I think that's going to cost him. D'Alessio put down a pretty decent run, left a few points on the board, especially on that outer zone, but I have a feeling it's going to go to Nick on this one.
Yeah, well, and it looks like our judges have a decision. Nick D'Alessio gets the win. Nick Delicious D'Alessio gets the win. Premium sausage, the way sausage should be. Sponsor of Brian the Hopquake Hopp and Nick Delicious D'Alessio. All right, at this time, we're going to let our media personnel make any moves that they need to do, get to any other bunkers. We're going to get our track workers out there to clean up our track for our top 16 contestant battle. We're also going to let our judges go take a bathroom break. This is a great time if you're joining us here at Raceway Park to go check out the grease truck and food truck. Stop in at Sneaky Pete's Bar, grab a drink, take a bathroom break yourself, and we'll get right back to the action here in about 5 minutes. I just got word. I lied to you. That 5 minutes is going to be more like 20. We'll get right back to the action here at 3:20. I repeat, we get right back to our top 16 battles at 3:20 p.m. Make sure you guys stop in at Sneaky Pete's Bar where there's drink specials going on all weekend long. Make sure you go say hello to Nation for me. And we're about 5 minutes getting back to the here. We're about 5 minutes away from getting back to the action here at Raceway Park, the Gambler. Be a good time to work your way to your seats.
All right, guys, if you did take a break, any spectators, we're going to get these drivers going in just a moment, so you want to head back to your seats. They're in the burnout box right now doing some burnouts, and then they will get on the line and get ready to send our second battle in the top 16, which is Root and Kliman.
All right, you guys already saw one of our top 16 battles between Ozar and D'Alessio, where D'Alessio taking the win. I believe that doubled his Drift HQ Let It Ride token. Yeah, he has $50 thanks to Drift HQ. All right, we have our next drivers contestants back up on the line. Root versus Kliman. Kliman. I do this every time. I'm so sorry, bud. We're gonna have to come up with a cool nickname for him. Just KK? Is that his nickname? All right, KK. KK. That works for me. Hey, man, you're going to start screaming. All right, Root sitting in the lead position in that gray E36 with that supercharged V8 under the hood. Up against KK in that red RX-7 FC. I believe it's also LS powered. All right, and Root going down and initiates in. We're going to make sure they enter outside zones nice and early, and Root does. Clicks in, maybe a little wide there. As Kliman getting right behind it in a red FC RX-7 as both drivers working their way through outside zone number 2 and gets back into inside clip. Both drivers doing a fantastic job to that first inside clip. Going to that second inside clip. The RX-7 jumping a little far back as KK trying to put the pressure back onto Root. The E36 as they go through that next outside zone. Clicks back into the hairpin here as Root a little bit of a hesitation to get back on throttle as KK in that red RX-7 FC is right behind him going through that reference point. Back up to our last outside zone. Root right on the wall and a little love tap to finish it off.
Yeah, that was pretty smooth on both of their parts. He's definitely in most of the zones. We did see at least one tire off in the first outer zone by Root, but he's in that second outer zone, right on that clip, exactly where you're supposed to be. Smooth through the center section, and he's heading right into that last outer zone here before the hairpin. He's doing a great job, but he has to keep in mind that Kliman, Mr. KK, is right on his door as well, not leaving any room for error, so we're definitely going to have to see how these cars do in the reverse positions.
Little love tap there from Root in his supercharged E36 on the replay there. You can see that E36 going a little deep into that outside one here at Raceway Park, the Gambler. Both these drivers doing a fantastic job throughout practice. I got to talk to Root and his family over there. It's a family event as Root building that car with his father and his family. I'm pretty sure almost all his siblings are probably going to be out here drifting at the Gambler probably next round, right? Next round? All right, next round. The whole Root family is going to be out here competing as Trevor Root with that supercharged V8 showcasing what he's capable of in the lead position here. We're waiting for our second half of the battle. It looks like our grid, our judges are ready. Waiting for the ambers to illuminate, and here we go. We got a green. We're looking for a clean start at a KK taking the lead in that red RX-7 FC with the Root right there, right behind him as both drivers working their way to outside one. As KK's a little late getting into outside one as Root's trying to put that proximity run on, holding a great job from Root. And that E36 going into outside zone number 2 as both drivers curl back into that first inside clip, and Root showing that patience and that proximity hold as he's keeping that same consistent car length away from the RX-7 of KK. They both work their way into the hairpin here. Root doing a great job following the RX-7 through that hairpin. KK doing a great job giving the real estate for Root to work with that supercharged V8 going and chasing down that V8 powered RX-7. Both drivers doing a great job through that last outside zone across the finish line. A great lap here from both drivers. Make some noise for them where they got their hands out the window congratulating themselves as they go down our iconic tree turn here at Raceway Park.
Great run by both drivers, as you said. I definitely agree. I think this is one of the closest battles we've had so far. The judges are definitely going to have their work cut out for them to decide the winner. They were both relatively smooth, pretty much where the cars needed to be. They did have certain sections where they left some points on the board, especially when Mr. KK is coming into the bank turn. He was a little bit low. We want to see them right up against that wall to get the full amount of points. But like I said, they were pretty even as far as proximity. They're pretty even as far as putting their car exactly where they need to be in each zone. So we're going to leave it up to the judges and see what they have to say.
It definitely is a slightly poetic when both drivers are really locking into what they need to do, as both drivers' styles here are really fluid with each other. And you can see Root chasing down Mr. KK. It makes him sound like a special agent or something. I really like it. And KK with that RX-7 FC out in the lead. And Trevor Root chasing him down with that BMW. Definitely going to have to wait on the judges' deliberation to find the verdict of this battle. We have our next battle up on the line already. Adam Daniels taking on Brian Hopp, who's sitting on a TireStacks.com Let It Ride token. And the judges do have a decision. Root gets the win. Root will move on going into our top 8.
Yeah, and I can't help but to think that that might have had something to do with that bank turn. The judges definitely want to see you right up on the wall. And if your competitor does it just slightly better, it's going to weigh heavier on them as well. So make sure you put it on the wall out there, guys. That's what we want to see.
Drifting's all about taking a little bit of risk, and those are our risky parts of our track here. Definitely rewarded the most for taking risk here at Raceway Park, the Gambler. We have Adam Daniels piloting that teal E36 convertible going up against Brian Hopp with a now dented door and that new chassis of an S13. All right, Daniels taking that lead position, going up against Brian Hopp, holding onto that TireStacks.com $25 Let It Ride token. As Daniels cranking the angle into outside one. That was beautiful as Brian Hopp falls into formation now as both drivers starting to really push it through outside one, going into outside zone number 2. That was only one outside zone already. They're both killing it. Brian Hopp going driving right behind Adam Daniels, doing exactly what's being requested of the judges. Brian Hopp in that VQ power falling a little bit behind on the vert, trying to clean it up, making a sacrifice going into that outside zone, trying to get back to the side of Adam Daniels' E36. As Daniels giving a little bit of a window going into that hairpin as Brian Hopp takes the advantage, jumps right back through, and you can see Adam Daniels' E36 with a little bit more bite out of the hairpin than that VQ powered S13 to Brian as both drivers work their way through the bank wall, and Brian Hopp Mario Karting it down the wall and driving it away. Hopquake. Brian Hopp, you can see right here on our live stream replay, Brian Hopp all over Adam Daniels' E36. Adam Daniels doing a great job, doing everything he needs to do with the real estate here. And Brian Hopp going through all the motions to follow through. I'm too excited. Sarah, you need to talk about it.
Yeah, that was a great run. There's no question that Daniels threw it in super hot boy entry. He may have overcooked it just slightly in that first outer zone. He did have, I believe, one tire off, but they were side by side through the rest of that turn, and then it sort of starts to fall apart on the bank. Daniels was a little bit low, and Hopp fell back just a smidge, and I can see some of Hopp's crew running back to his pit, so there may be an issue there. We're going to have to wait and see.
I believe I overheard a little bit of radio chatter that they're going to have to call a competition 5 timeout for Brian Hopp to take a look at his vehicle after Hopp quaking it into our Raceway Park wall here. In true Mario Kart fashion, Hopp looks like he just got a little deep, and that new chassis being nice and rigid for him, putting him right back in the wall. He drove out of it like a champ, though. So him and his team and friends are all back in the pits right now. They're probably going to have to take, the live stream just cuts out right before it. Saves his face. His PR guy's real good, huh? Premio Sausage, that's the way sausage should be. As the Premio Sausage team, look at all those sausages over there working on that S13. Brian Hopp and his team are trying to get that car back up and running. They're going to take their competition 5 timeout to try to make that happen. We're going to jump our next contestants back into the burnout box to get their tires warmed up. It looks like we're going to see battle between Mike Knapp, the man himself, going up against John De Silva. All right, it looks like we're getting our next driver's tires warmed up. Mike Knapp entering the burnout box, and he's going to be followed in by John De Silva. Brian Hopp and his crew are already in the pit. All right, while Brian Hopp and his team from Premio Sausage is back there trying to get that car fixed, we're going to get the next battle on the line. And we have Mike Knapp sitting with that S13 in the lead position going up against John De Silva's S13 in the chase position. Sarah, you know any information about Mike Knapp?
Boy, do we. Mike Knapp is the owner of this fine track. He also shreds as well in an S chassis near and dear to my heart. I believe it has a 1J in it.
Is it a 1J powered car? It's a lot cooler to me if it is a 1J powered car. Well, Mike Knapp out there, the owner of this facility out here at Raceway Park, and also hosting the Gambler. He's out here competing today on the road course as Mike Knapp now taking the lead position, going up against John De Silva, getting chased out in his own S13 hatch. Both drivers working their way to outside one as Mike Knapp closes into outside one and stays on that line, staying in the coupe to the completion of outside one as John De Silva trying to get back to the proximity side point of Mike Knapp's S13 hatch. Too many S13 hatches. Both drivers working their way in as Knapp doing a great job getting into the outside zone right before the hairpin here as John De Silva is trying to keep up with that S13 of Mike Knapp as it's nice and smooth, working his way through the course here that he owns. And Mike Knapp doing a great job as De Silva starting to put the pressure on now as both drivers transition up into the bank as Mike Knapp gets nice and high, filling in that outside zone as much as he possibly can with John De Silva racing him to the finish line.
Yeah, that was a great run, and it is confirmed Mike Knapp does have a 1J in that car. So although we do have two black hatch 240s, one of them has a V8, One of them has a 1J. So they are a little bit unevenly matched as far as that goes. But Mike, you wouldn't know it. He's doing a great job around that track there. You can say he's driven this multiple times, so he knows it really well. But he is the creator of the Gambler as well. And he does like, I know him, he likes a good competition. He wants to see all the drivers out here having a great time, really pushing it to the limit to see who it comes out on top.
I've definitely shared the competition field with Mike Knapp before. I'm pretty sure I beat him in a game of table once. But anyway, Mike Knapp now in that chase position going up against John Da Silva, taking the lead. All right, looks like we're ready to send our cars here. Mike Knapp now in the chase position, going up against John Da Silva. John Da Silva taking that lead, looking for a clean start out of the chicane. It looks like we have it. Both drivers come down the straight here. They need to initiate by that last initiation cone. Both of the drivers well before, working their way to outside one. As John Da Silva starting to click in that V8 power at S13, and Mike Knapp right behind him, holding that proximity as both drivers work their way into outside two. Knapp gives them a little bit of room to work as both drivers work their way to outside two, going into inside clip number one. You can see Da Silva's car surging ahead through inside clip number two as both drivers dump into that outside zone. Mike Knapp taking a shallow line, trying to close the proximity, going into the hairpin, knowing he needs to put that wheel speed a little higher, or that vehicle speed, I'm sorry. And then John Da Silva gets nice, a little too deep, 2 tires off in that outside zone as Mike Knapp gives him the room to get back on the track up to that last outside zone in the bank here. Raceway Park, the Gambler.
Nice job there. I think they were pretty evenly matched as far as height in the bank. A little bit mid to high line, so great job by both drivers. Now, Da Silva did have a little bit of a mess up there as far as the hairpin, exiting it just a hair earlier than you want to be, and also dipped a tire there as well, so the judges will definitely have to take that into consideration when they're looking at both runs. He does get a little deep there, and then, I'm wrong, he does not exit early, so apologies for that one, but they'll definitely take a look at that tire off and see what's what.
That was a perfect example of why the tire off rule has been put into position. That tire off rule, you can see the vehicle's momentum barely changed throughout that, but also a deduction for being so deep off of the real estate left for our judges on the track. And I believe our judges have a decision. They're going to go one more time. Mike Knapp and John Da Silva are going to see battle one more time. And like the true animals that they are, Mike Knapp and John Da Silva right back. They're ready to go. They said, can we do this right now? So both those drivers are going to work their way back up to the line. Mike Knapp to take that lead position first. John Da Silva to chase. And just got word over the radio, Brian Hopp and that Premio Sausage team unable to get that sausage the way it's supposed to be, and will take his timeout and fail to make the car suitable for competition, and taking the loss here. An unfortunate turn of events for Hopp. Sarah, you hate to see it.
You hate to see it, Mike. Now we are going to need to see Daniels out there, I believe, to do one more lap, correct? To showcase that his car is suitable for competition, or did they finish their battle?
I think they have to finish the run. But anyway, Mike Knapp taking the lead lap against John Da Silva taking the chase. Mike Knapp working his way through outside zone number one as both drivers transition to outside two. Mike Knapp gets in nice and early. John Da Silva getting real deep in the outside two, trying to clean that proximity up, going through inside clip number one as both drivers transition past the second inside clip. Mike Knapp's S13 hatch trying to fall into that outside zone, doing a great job. John DeSilva right there on the side of Mike Knapp's S13. John and DeSilva and his team obviously taking in the data points from the last run, trying to clean this up. As Mike Knapp putting on a textbook run through the hairpin. John DeSilva jumps down to give a little bit of real estate for Knapp to keep his wheel speed up, let that car manipulate and behave the way he wants. As Mike Knapp doing a great job filling that zone.
Nice job by both drivers. They definitely came out and pushed a little harder than their first run, that first time around. You can see Mike Knapp leading there, going into the center section. He's on that cone as close as he can be. He's going to try to keep it up through that center section, keep angle on there. Coming out to that outer zone right before the hairpin. Could be a little bit deeper there for being picky, but I think he does a great job in the hairpin, putting the car right where it needs to be, nice and smooth in there. But DeSilva is right on his door, not letting him have any room for error. And then right into the bank turn, and Knapp is nice and high on that wall. That is what we want to see.
Definitely cool watching Mike Knapp drive out here, and John DeSilva definitely showcasing that him and his car are capable of being where it needs to be. But now it's Mike Knapp's turn to showcase what he's capable of in the chase position. John DeSilva now to lead. And here we go, the green light's down. We have a clean start. Shooting down the straight here at Raceway Park into turn 1. John DeSilva works that V8-powered S13 a little deep, and Mike Knapp follows him down. And Mike Knapp maybe making a mistake, following him into the danger zone there. As both drivers work their way into outside zone number 2, and Mike Knapp blazing through those 2 zones, maybe taking some sacrifices trying to close that gap up, but shuts it down. Unfortunately, Mike Knapp doing his damnedest to make sure that he cleans up his mistakes here, but just trying to keep up to that V8-powered car of John DeSilva.
Well, you hate to see it. You want to see a full run on both parts so that we can take a look and enjoy the driving. But that one was cut short, unfortunately. It honestly looked like it started to go bad right in that first outer zone. DeSilva put it in super, super deep, possibly a little too deep. Maybe 1 tire off, maybe more. Looked like 2 tires off, possibly. I'm getting word now. And unfortunately, Mike followed him in there and just couldn't drive it out. I'm not really sure what happened in there, but then he straightens in the center section. And then DeSilva keeps on going, so that is unfortunate.
And unfortunately, we do want our chase drivers to be super aggressive, but also showcase the patience and relative aspects of location on the track of where they are. We want them to make sure that they're safe before diving somebody into a danger zone. But unfortunately for Mike Knapp, there's a few mistakes throughout his run, all added up, and it looks like we're going to have to give the win to John DeSilva in his S13 hatch. All right, Adam Daniels back up on the line. Needs to showcase that his car is suitable for competition after Brian Hopp and his Premium Sausage team was unable to get his car back out for competition. Adam Daniels needs to leave his line under his own power and showcase that the car is still suitable for competition here at Raceway Park the Gambler. And Adam Daniels throwing it down on his bye run here to showcase his working. And Adam Daniels doing a great job filling outside 1. Super wide, clicks in through outside zone number 2, curls back into inside 1. Adam Daniels putting on a showcase what the judges want. A little left foot brake to pitch the car deep in, pulls it back in, right into that outside zone. Adam Daniels clicks back up for that hairpin. A little late going into that zone, but super stylish, super solid, committed and confident. as he goes over that reference point for our drivers and judges and flicks back into our last outside zone. And Adam Daniels doing a phenomenal job here, showcasing what his buy run here is. Definitely didn't want to see him go and take the win from Brian Hopp in that manner, but he definitely showcased that he is capable and worthy of moving into the top 8. That also means Adam Daniels is going to steal that TireStacks.com Let It Ride token. It is now in his possession. Congratulations, Adam Daniels, on that TireStacks.com Let It Ride token.
So now that he does have that token, it does reset to $25. So he'll start out with $25 for Tire Stacks and double it as he wins more battles. So let's see what the next couple battles have in store.
If you or a business that you work with would like to sponsor a Let It Ride token, make sure you contact Raceway Park. Let's get it spicy. Let's throw some money out here. Let's ramp this thing up for 2022. Make sure you contact Raceway Park for all your sponsor inquiries. We got our next battle up on the line. Chris Meyer versus Matt Ezzy, sitting on $50 thanks to South Bay Fuel Injectors. And Chris initiates, working his way into outside zone number 1, gets in nice and early, and Matt Ezzy falls into formation right behind him. That S13 of Matt Ezzy right behind that E46 and Chris Myers, both drivers working the way to outside zone number 2. Chris Meyer doing a great job clicking it back in, curls right back in for that inside clip as Ezzy's trying to close that proximity down. A little lacking of angle there is going through those inside clips, trying to keep up with that V8-powered E46 of Chris Meyer. As Chris cranking the angle and the wheel speed on it, Ezzy just trying to close the gap up as Chris Myers working his way through all these zones here at Raceway Park the Gambler. Flicks down to that reference point, and Essie has closed the gap, and then you can see that V8 power, Chris Meyer, in a good, confident flick up in the outside zone. A bit shy off of the zone, but super flexy going into that. Definitely a solid run for Chris Meyer and Matt Ezzy.
Nice job by both drivers. It's always a little bit difficult when a less horsepower car tries to chase one of these big V8 cars, but I think Ezzy did a great job. Still, Chris is out front shredding that whole track, you know, only leaving a few points out there on the board. So we're going to see when they flip spots how it goes in the chase run.
It's really cool to see like people like Matt Ezzy and other drivers that take a lower horsepower car and try to take down these giants that have V8s and other horsepower, obnoxious amounts of horsepower in these cars, and these guys try to battle it out, but these guys cannot make a single mistake. You can see Ezzy almost fell into exactly where he needed to be, but one little bobble of miscalculation on his part sets a gap, and then he's forced the entire rest of the run to try to close that proximity up. And that's a lot of driver skill to close that gap up and hold and mimic the line that is unknown characteristics. It's already getting spicy. So Chris Myers now in the follower's position, Matt Ezzy in the lead. Matt Ezzy now in that lead position, Chris Meyer to chase. We see if Chris Meyer can adapt to Matt Ezzy's horsepower and driving style as both drivers click into outside zone number 1. Matt Ezzy getting in a little late, but you see Chris Meyer falling right behind the S13 coupe. Both drivers wiggling way out of outside 1 into outside zone number 2 and curl back into inside clip number 1. You can see the E46 of Chris Meyer giving a little bit of patience and following the transition, almost mimicking almost identically through those front inner side clips. A little bobble from Chris Meyer as he gets resituated behind that slower car of Mike Essie as he rotates that coupe into that hairpin outside zone. And Chris Meyer still right there, holding that proximity all the way through, doing a fantastic job. Chris Meyer a little braking there, holding on that throttle input and flicks right back up, following Matt Essie into that high line on the bank. A solid lap here from Matt Essie and Chris Meyer.
Again, nice job by both drivers in the lead and in the chase. You can tell that Ezzy is leaving it all out on the track, trying to beat that big V8 of Chris Meyer. They're definitely doing a great job, but Chris is all over his door, staying right where he needs to be, right on the side of that 240 of Ezzy. He's doing a good job coming into the hairpin there, nice and wide. He does dip a tire, which is unfortunate, but that's because he's taking that super wide line, which is nice. We want to see that. And then he's transitioning up into the bank, and he's nice and high as well. Great job by Ezzy in the lead position.
Definitely cool to see these guys get dialed into their cars throughout practice yesterday and qualifying. Chris Meyer doing a fantastic job in the chase, but Matt Essie doing everything he can to keep the real estate nice and fluid, and it's exactly what we asked of him in our drivers' meetings. And the judges coming to a decision. Chris Meyer gets the win. Chris Meyer gets the win. Stealing that Let It Ride token from South Bay Fuel Injectors, Chris Meyer moves on into the top 8. And here we go, jumping right into our next battle here. Bexler chasing down that 350Z of Verosa. Both drivers, Bexler getting a little stabby there through the smoke behind that VQ Power 350Z. As both drivers working their way down through outside zone number 2 and inside clip number 1. Both drivers transition into inside clip number 2. Working their way through that outside zone, and both drivers click back into the hairpin up here. As Bexler's trying to put that proximity back onto the side of Verosa's 350Z, and both drivers working their way down. Through that reference point, clicks back up to the Y line here in the bank, getting up close and personal with that Raceway Park logo up here and across the finish line.
Yeah, great lead run there. He did leave a couple of points on the table. He ended up pouring a little bit too much angle there on the entry, which really messed him up. You could tell that he got right into that second outer zone, though, trying to salvage it, exactly how the judges told them in the drivers' meeting. If you go a little bit too hard in one zone, just try to get back on track and salvage the rest of the zones. So that's what we're going to see here with Verosa. Getting into that hairpin there, he wants to be nice and wide, which we do see. He's going to transition into the bank, making sure that he gets through that little reference zone that the judges are looking for. And he does get a little bit low on the bank. We would like to see him a little bit higher if we're being picky. But then we're going to see them go in the opposite run and see if Bexler can take out 2 V8 cars. I don't know.
Yeah, Bexler definitely has to pull out some magic here. He's going to have to throw down in the lead position and force a mistake. We're going to obviously ask Bexler to put on a confident lead lap here and we see what he can pull out of his opponent, Glenn, getting led by Luke. Luke going in, initiates into that S13 hatch, working his way into that outside zone, working up against Glenn, as Glenn in that 350Z trying to put the pressure on as both drivers transition that outside zone number 2. Luke going, curling back into that inside clip. Glenn's putting the pressure on for that 350Z as Bexler starting to put that pressure back into the throttle pedal as both drivers work their way to that second inside clip. As Bexler, a little bit of angle, cranks back into the outside zone, but Glenn's right there on the backside of Luke's S13. Both drivers transition into that hairpin outside zone. And we finally got some closer tandems, and both drivers go in and start putting the throttle down to our reference point, right in front of the stands and the judges' tower, go up into our last outside zone, and Bexler trying to get nice and close to the wall as Glenn putting the pressure on over the finish line.
Yeah, you can tell that Bexler was giving it all he's got, trying to beat that V8 of Frito. He definitely did a little bit better staying in that first outer zone, but he does completely miss that second outer zone, and he's a little bit far off that inner clip. Still, he has that V8 350Z of Frito on his door pretty much this entire time. He's doing as best he can, getting into that hairpin. He's pretty much got the car where we want to see it, nice and deep in that hairpin outer zone. Heading into that reference point. Now that point is not technically judged, but our judges do want to see your car pass over it to show us that you're in the right spot on the track, transitioning into that bank. Now I think he could be a little bit higher if we're being picky again, but I think it's pretty even with what we saw from Frito on that first run.
Well said, Sarah. And you can see where Luke and Glenn have been battling it out through this replays here on our live stream, both on YouTube and Facebook. Make sure you guys share that link to your families and friends so they can tune in as well. If you guys are joining us here at Raceway Park, I hope you guys are enjoying the beautiful weather here, and I hope you guys also are tuning into the live stream so you can see this incredible drone footage from our live stream crew. And the judges have a decision. Luke Bexler will get the win. Luke Bexler gets the win, doubling his Freedom Motorsports Let It Ride token to $100. Luke Bexler taking $100 and a win into the top 8. Now
we can only speculate that outer zone 1 had a lot to do with that call. he pretty much overextended that and left some points on the board. If you're going to start the run out weak like that, you definitely need to make up for it. Hold on, here they go.
And our next battle already on the line. Doug Santana and Charlie trying to take out that big VA-powered E46. Doug Santana was out for blood in practice trying to win, taking out suspension components of his car. Him and his team got it back together and dialed even before the end of practice. And you can see Charlie here trying to keep up with that crazy E46 of Doug Santana. Both drivers working their way through that outside zone number 2 and clicks back into the hairpin. Charlie starting to put the pressure in, driving through the smoke of Doug Santana's E46. Charlie getting back into position as both drivers jump. Charlie jumps and surges maybe a little to the backside of the E46. Maybe a tad early on Charlie's behalf, but he cleans it up nice and solid over the finish line.
Nice job. Now, Doug, if you guys were paying attention, he left the track on the forklift earlier in practice, so it's great to see someone get their car back out and driving for competition. He had some front-end issues, but the crew got it back together. He was saying they got it back together in 45 minutes, which is great. It's nice to have a crew that you can rely on. You can see Doug putting down his signature Big Smoky run here, but it's not to count out Farrell, who stays on his door the entire time. Great chase driving, especially with a big VA car that's making a ton of smoke, so good job by him as well. Doug's nice and high to exit the track, but again, Farrell's right on his door.
And this is where we go to the second half of the battle, where Charlie will now take that lead position and Doug Santana will now have to chase. Charlie piloting that green S13 coupe, and Doug Santana in that blue E46 BMW. And here we go. It looks like we got a clean start. Charlie coming down the straight and initiates well before our last initiation point. Well wide. Super wide, actually. Charlie, that was gangster. As Doug follows him into the outside one, getting that proximity nice and tight. As Doug makes a little bit of bobble, maybe getting a little too close, thinking he was going to contact Charlie's S13. As both drivers dump into that first inside clip. And Doug having a little bobble again, trying to close up that gap. As Charlie going on through that second inside clip and dumping into that next outside zone. Doug Santana looks like he's starting to get comfortable back now behind the wheel of his E46 and clicks through. Charlie maybe a little slower for that E46, messing with Doug Santana's timing of his entire road course, messing with his muscle memory as Charlie weasels his way up into that last outside rear zone. And Doug Santana trying to put the pressure on as Charlie pulls away and across the finish line. Charlie with a little bit of fire just to kick it off.
Yeah, there's our big fire guy again. Now this is Doug's first battle of the day. So we're going to see a few mistakes here as he tries to chase that S13. Farrell with a big entry. We love to see that there. He does a great job staying in all of the zones going around the track. And Doug is having a little bit of a tough time chasing him. I don't know, because of the difference in their cars, or maybe his car isn't 100% from that collision earlier. But still, I think Farrell did a great job surprising us there. Nice job in the lead run overall.
Charlie's also sitting on $50 thanks to East Coast Drift School with Let It Ride tokens. He definitely doesn't want to take a loss here. Doug has the opportunity to steal that Let It Ride token out from under Charlie by taking a win, but Charlie could double that $50 into $100 and bring it into the top 8 with a win. And we have a robbery. Doug Santana gets the win, stealing that East Coast Drift School token. Doug Santana gets the win, moving into that top 8 and stealing that East Coast Drift School Let It Ride token. That'll bring our next 2 drivers up on the line. Joe Cleary, one of those minimum payment racing drivers, out on the line. I believe this is his first bracket-style drift event, at least with this car. But Joe's out here throwing it down, going up against Sean Murphy, another rookie here to the road course at Raceway Park. Both these drivers throw into our first turn 1 outside zone. As Joe doing a great job clicking in. Joe, definitely a veteran here at Club Blues, hangs out on track days all the time. You can showcase that here as he fills out outside zone 1 in its completion and 2. You can see Sean Murphy in that stock VQ powered 350Z working his way back to the proximity point on the side of Joe Cleary's S14 as they work their way through those inside clips. Joe working out to that outside line, into that zone nice and early as Sean trying to showcase that he can keep up to the side of that S14. As Sean following Joe Cleary's line through that outside zone, a little bit of a bobble there from Cleary, but Sean keeps his composure. Sean trying to follow that S14 up into that last outside zone, following Joe up and across the finish line. Give it up for Joe Cleary and Sean Murphy.
And we have a nice lead run here by Cleary. Great job in that 240 coming down, hitting both the first and second outer zone. A little bit off that clip if we're being picky, but he's doing a great job keeping up momentum through that center section. He puts his car pretty much right where he needs to be, a little bit shallow on that outer zone right before the hairpin, but then he's coming into the hairpin pretty perfectly, keeps it in there the whole way through, nice and deep, coming over that reference point, and then up into the wall. Now that 350Z of Murphy is trying his best to keep up, and I think he's doing a great job in that stock VQ car.
It's definitely cool to see guys out here competing with almost stock chassis. I know Sean has a bunch of suspension work to there. He probably I think he has an intake on that, like maybe a cool plenum, maybe a spacer. But Sean Murphy's out there with that white 350Z, throwing it down in that chase position up against Joe Cleary in that black S14 from Minimum Payment Racing. And our lights are illuminating. We have a green, looking for a clean start out of Sean Murphy going through the chicane here down the straightaway into turn 1 at Raceway Park, the Gambler. Sean Murphy initiates well before our last initiation point, working his way into outside zone number 1. And Sean Murphy clicks in a little shallow angle, but readjusts, and Joe Cleary makes the same adjustment behind him, mimicking Sean Murphy's 350Z as they work their way into outside zone number 2. Joe Cleary starting to put the pressure on the proximity through inside clip number 1 as both drivers transition through inside clip number 2. Joe Cleary a little bobble behind the 350Z as Sean Murphy's trying to figure out where he's going to land that 350Z in, but Joe Cleary jumps right to the backside, landing right back into formation as both drivers work their way to the outside zone. Joe Cleary holding a little bit of a gap now as Sean Murphy's trying to keep that 350Z away from that S14 as both drivers flick up to our last outside zone, and Sean Murphy clicking into that outside zone. Joe Cleary trying to close the gap right over the finish line.
Yeah, this is another tough one. They're two different style of drivers. As you said, Mike, the entry was a little bit shallow on Murphy's part, but again, he is driving that 350Z car, so he has a little bit less power than the V8 of the S chassis behind him. They're doing a great job staying in close proximity, so good job by Cleary in the chase. Murphy's going to come around to the hairpin, and this is where Cleary goes a little bit wide, which I think hurts him here, because that's going to make a gap between the lead and chase car. Going into the hairpin, but then once more, Murphy does go a little bit low on the bank. I think he could have went a bit higher if we're looking for perfection. Let's see what the judges have to say.
It's definitely cool to see people with a higher horsepower car working their magic behind a car that has a lot less. Sean Murphy, definitely a groover, makes that low horsepower make it as fast as possible, but definitely the V8 power of Joe Cleary underneath the S14. You can see it through the exit of the hairpin after making that mistake going through the outside zone up here. You can see that little bit of a dirt drop just kills the momentum, the forward momentum of the car, and you can see him just starting to put the power down, and you can see him clean up his mistake here, and that's where horsepower is really just allowing him to drive that car with a larger spectrum. But it's amazing that Joe is keeping that car under control with a lot less behind Sean Murphy's VQ powered 350Z. And our judges have a verdict. They're going to go one more time.
And the judges are clarifying a little bit here about why that went one more time. They both had a few errors here and there, and they'd like to see them run again. I think we're going to see some more one more times as we get farther into this bracket. You're going to start to see these drivers more evenly matched, and it's tough to pick a winner. So we're going to go ahead and get our next battle up to the line, which is D'Alessio and Root.
With those two drivers going one more time, it puts a kind of a hold on having a complete top 8, but that means we're going to move back to the left side of the bracket for you guys following along thanks to social media and our live streams, and that means we're going to get our first battle of the top 8 started here. Nick Delicious D'Alessio hanging on to that Drift HQ Let It Ride token with a value of $50 right now, going up against Trevor Root in that supercharged V8 powered E36. Trevor Root definitely looking to steal that money away from D'Alessio going into the Final 4. And we got a green light illuminated, and Root's going to take that lead position, D'Alessio to chase. Root initiates, working his way into outside zone number 1 as Nick D'Alessio starting to put the pressure on even before they even get into outside zone number 1. D'Alessio falling right to the quarter panel of Root's E36. He falls out of outside zone 1 a little early, but clicks into outside 2. D'Alessio doing a great job following Root's line all the way through inside clip number 1 and following the transition through inside clip number 2. Root getting a little wild through inside clip 2 and getting a little deep into outside zone right before the hairpin here. But D'Alessio using that real estate to his advantage as he closes up that proximity through the hairpin outer zone right in front of the judges tower in the scene here. Nick D'Alessio curls early a little down to get behind the Root bumper, the E36, so he can slingshot right behind. And Nick D'Alessio gets into the wall, and Root makes a spin. And D'Alessio does a great job avoiding contact. That was... that's like when you play Uno and someone like throws down a +4, and then someone's like, here's another one, and then another one.
Dang, that is a tough one because it started out as such a great run. D'Alessio's doing a great job chasing down that big V8 car. A few errors on Root's part in the lead, but D'Alessio's trying to stay as close as he can. But unfortunately, after we come towards the bank turn, we did have that situation there. I thought it looked great exiting the hairpin. They're door to door, they're transitioning at the same time. I love to see that, but then I guess Root just tries to put too much sauce on it and go ahead and loops it. So that's unfortunate.
I may be mistaken, but I believe D'Alessio on that slingshot up to the bank, maybe even tapped the wall just a tiny bit. He did catch the vehicle and was ready to make his move again, but I think he got really lucky with Trevor Root making looks like an individual mistake out there on the bank. We'll have to lean on our judges after the deliberations on a decision. All right, we got word over the radio that Nick D'Alessio stole one of our clipping point cones. We need that back, bud. So we're going to get that cone out from underneath Nick D'Alessio's S13. All right, it looks like our drivers are back up in the line. We got our cone back from Nick D'Alessio, the thief. And Nick D'Alessio now sitting in the lead position, going up against Trevor Root in his E36. Last half of that battle definitely got a little bit of spicy. We'll see what D'Alessio has as the lead car. He's going to lead that supercharged V8-powered gray E36 of Trevor Root here at the road course at Raceway Park the Gambler. It's the calm before the storm. See, we should block the start so no one knows what's going to happen. Just see two cars shoot out and you're like, oh my. We got our lights illuminated. And we got Trevor Root in the chase going up against Nick D'Alessio in the lead. Root not afraid to make that car into an airplane as both drivers work their way into outside zone number 1. D'Alessio doing a good job getting deep into the wide line of outside 1, but Root doing a great job following D'Alessio through it. He transitions up and follows the coupe of D'Alessio into outside zone number 2 as they both curl into that inside clip number 1. Root putting a little bit of wheel speed and patience in, waiting for D'Alessio to make his move into inside clip number 2 as both drivers work their way into the next outside zone. As D'Alessio doing a good job getting in a little later, but Root right there on the door handle. D'Alessio says 13 as both drivers work their way to the hairpin. Root taking a little bit of a shallow line to close up the proximity as both drivers transition down to the reference point. Root trying to follow in D'Alessio's coupe up to the high line on the bank as D'Alessio dumps Zach down, cutting off Root's line across the finish line.
Yeah, we figured we'd see some aggressive driving here out of Root because he's really trying to push D'Alessio into making a mistake so that they can double zero, possibly go for a one more time. But D'Alessio seems pretty smooth. He did have a nice big early entry there and nice and deep in outer zone 1. He's looking a little bit shallow going in that center section, and he does miss that outer zone before the hairpin. But then in that hairpin, he's going in pretty deep. Good job there, nice and smooth. Looking very settled, that's what we want to see. Transitioning over that reference point for the judges, and then just one mistake, he's not super high on the bank. That's going to count against him, unfortunately. But then again, Root did spin, so we just need a pretty decent from D'Alessio. So
we've mentioned our reference point here at Raceway Park, the Gambler. That reference point is for our drivers and our judges. Our drivers and our judges use that reference point as a visual aid to understand where we want their drivers to put their car in a nice fluid controlled mannerism into that space. Each car and chassis is going to have a slightly different behavior through there, and we want our drivers to throw up into that bank as confidently as possible. So we have drawn a reference point in the middle of the track for our drivers and our judges to understand where we want our cars manipulated to without any sort of hard definition to cause their car to be unsafe or dangerous. It's a lot of words. All right, we do have a winner. The judges have come to the decision. Nick D'Alessio doubling his Drift HQ Let It Ride tokens to $50 to $100. Nick D'Alessio will get a win, walking his way into the top 4. So our last man standing pot, we only have 2 men left standing. We have Chris Meyer and Joe Cleary are the only 2 men left standing in our last man standing pot. The winner takes home all of that cash money. I believe Joe Cleary is pulling up to the line right now. He just got done warming up his tires up against his one more time battle and Sean Murphy with that VQ powered 350Z. All right, jumping back out to our top 16 one more time, going up against Joe Cleary and Sean Murphy. Joe Cleary piloting that black S14 Zenki. You can see in that lead position behind our chicane, going up against Sean Murphy with that white 350Z sitting in the chase. And here we go, first half of this one more time battle. Joe Cleary taking the lead up against Sean Murphy in that 350Z. Cleary dumps into outside zone number 1. Sean Murphy trying to match that angle going into outside 1. Sean threw off maybe at the aggression of Joe going into outside 1 as both drivers worked their way into outside 2. Joe getting nice and deep through outside 2 and Sean Murphy trying to close that gap up. Maybe taking a little bit of a sacrifice through that inside clip number 1 as Joe Cleary avoids that. Getting right back to the inside clip number 2 as both drivers work their way into the next outside zone. Clearly throws on the angle and Sean Murphy tries to match that VQ. You can see not jumping the wheel speed up as fast as that V8 powered S14 of Joe Cleary. Sean making his adjustments now, trying to hold that proximity to the hairpin as they rotate down to that reference point we were just talking about. Float back up to a nice high line as Joe Cleary doing a great job and Sean Murphy not far behind him.
All right, so great job. I thought he had a pretty early entry there, and he did a better job at staying in outer zone 1 for the full time. I think that was one of the spots where Cleary lost points initially in that first run. He's doing great. He is a little bit off that first inner clip, but he's doing good through the center section, keeping up that momentum. Again, he's sort of missing that outer zone before the hairpin. Then he's going into that hairpin outer zone. I'm going to say this is medium. That's how I rate it when it doesn't light me on fire, but he is in the zone. I'm giving him a medium rating there. He gets up nice and high on the bank. Great job, but he does have Murphy knocking on his door, so we'll see how they do when they flip positions.
Mild sauce, Joe. Mild sauce. Salsa verde.
He did a salsa verde.
All right, we got our drivers back up on the line. Sean Murphy now in the lead. We got our ambers illuminated. That means we're waiting on the greens for Sean to work his way through the chicane, take that lead lap, getting chased down by now that VA-powered S14 of Joe Cleary. Both drivers coming down, and Sean initiates. Well before our last initiation point, as both drivers dump into our outside zone number 1, as Sean Murphy gets nice and deep, maybe a little deep, as Joe Cleary is trying to follow him through, starting to put the power down and taking that a little bit of a bobble, trying to clean up that wheel speed, following him into outside zone number 2, as Sean Murphy curls back in for that inside clip. Joe Cleary right there on the backside of that 350Z. Joe Cleary right in the back bumper as they transition through that second inside clip and work their way to the next outside zone. Sean Murphy dumps into the outside zone, doing a great job of Joe Cleary right behind him as he transitions up and following him into that hairpin. A nice safe difference for Joe. We want to see a little bit of aggression on the exit of the hairpin as both drivers transition down, and Sean Murphy not making sure that S14 doesn't get all the real estate in the world as both drivers go up, nice high line. Joe Cleary a little bit of a cut, but right there on the side of Sean Murphy's 350Z.
Yeah, that was a wild ride from Murphy. He started out a little bit shaky. I think that was at least 2 tires off in that first outer zone. So there is such thing as going too deep in that first outer zone. He's picking it up in that center section. We'll see him start to get wild with it coming into that second half of the track. He puts his car, in my opinion, right where it needs to be in that third outer zone before the hairpin. And again, we're going to see him nice and deep in that hairpin, maybe a little late to get in there, but still pretty good. We see him transition across that reference point and nice and high in the bank. That is not salsa verde. And then, unfortunately, Joe Cleary is going to get the win there. I think that first outer zone really worked against Murphy, but great driving on both parts. Again, Joe Cleary is going to get the win.
Well said, Sarah. Both these drivers definitely threw down throughout these two halves of the battle here. Sean Murphy with that white 350Z, his friends forcing them to come up and compete today. And I think Sean Murphy did a great job. A big round of applause for Sean Murphy coming out here, throwing it down, making it all the way into the top 8 at the E-Town Gambler. But Joe Cleary is going to take that win, going up against Doug Santana, who's holding on to that $25 East Coast Drift School Let It Ride token. And we're going to jump right back into our next battle, and we got Adam Daniels going up against De Silva, and De Silva super deep as Adam Daniels running that super wide line all the way through outside 1. Daniels is going to stay in, putting on a clinic to his Byron. A little bit of a bobble here as he avoids outside 2 and shuts it down through inside 1. All right, well. So Sarah, I'm going to lean this one on you. What's going on?
I think we're all scratching our heads up here, Mike. It looks like 2 separate events that are both going to get zeros. Not sure. We have a little bit of a different replay. Here we go. Now we have the correct replay up here. Now we'll see Daniels get super saucy on this entry, entering at that first cone. Now you can enter as late as the 3rd cone. Depends on your style. He's nice and deep in that zone, but we lose his chase driver somewhere. But then we start to see Daniels lose it, missing that second outer zone and straightening right after that inner clip. So I believe that's a 0 for both drivers. We're going to have to talk to the judges.
Yeah, definitely going to have to lean on the judges for that one. Adam Daniels threw down in his by-run, putting on almost a clinic throughout here. And then you can see here that he was throwing super deep into that extra pavement there. You can see our course laid out with our outside zones leave a little bit of extra pavement throughout the track here. That's to allow for our 25% per tire rule to be implemented without our drivers getting into a weird or dangerous situation and allow more clean tandem battles to happen. That little bit of extra real estate we do want in a controlled manner, as fast and as fluid as possible, allows for our drivers to hang all of it out as hard as they can. Yeah, Skid Lab, it's definitely that dude. Definitely Sarah. All right, we're waiting for our drivers to get back up on the line. It looks like we're sending Chris Meyer into the burnout box. I'm going to start asking some questions. Please hold. right, that's why we have such a pause and delay. Both drivers are calling their competition 5 timeout. So we're just going to move on, I guess. We're going to move on to our next battle while those guys go handle their competition 5 timeout. Definitely a quirky. We'll get some more information to you guys to understand exactly what went down with that.
So we did have a question in the chat. While we're taking a very quick break, we're going to answer who is judging. We have 3 judges here today. They are not me or Mike, although we can be pretty judgy. We have Kenrick Meyer, who's a former FD driver in Pro 2. He's also driven the Gambler and won it as well, so definitely qualified to judge. Next up, Jeff Stoneback. He's also a former Formula Drift driver. Again, great guy, ton of style. He does not like V8s, so feel free to flame him in the comments if you are a big V8 fan. And finally, last but not least, we have Chris Knapp, who is the son of Mike Knapp, owner of the track. Now, Chris Knapp did great in the last Gambler as well on the front course. He shreds in a pretty stock IS as well, so we love to see all of them drive. They're all very qualified, you know, and we appreciate our judges. So thank you, judges. Back to you, Mike.
Yay, judges. All right, we're waiting for our next drivers. Oh, we got them on the line. They're waiting on us. Oh, I was just waiting for Sarah to stop rambling. All right, we got our drivers back up on the line. Chris Meyer going up against Luke Bexler. Chris Meyer holding on to $25 he stole from the South Bay fuel injectors from Matt Essie in his last battle, and Luke Bexler holding on to $100 thanks to Frito Motorsports of Light Ride Token. As Chris Meyer whispers, working his way into that outside zone as Bexler holding his proximity, holding a nice safe pace behind that E46 of BMW of Chris Meyer as both drivers shoot to the outside 2. You can see a little bit of a gap there, but Bexler trying to close it up through inside 1. A little bit of a bobble through the steering inputs from Bexler's S13 as he works his way through those inside clips as Chris Meyer working his way into that outside zone. Bexler trying to close that gap up, taking a few sacrifices through those zones, trying to clean up that proximity as both drivers working their way to the outside. Chris Meyer doing a great job getting that Tanner Munson build E46 up and out through that reference point, back up to the wall, and Chris Meyer stylish all the way through and across the finish line. A solid lead from Chris Meyer and a solid chase from Bexler. Definitely a solid effort from Luke trying to keep up with that dialed E46 of Chris Meyer.
That is right. We like to see big, smoky entries, and look no further than Chris Meyer's runs for the big entries. Again, he's another driver giving us a nice, huge entry at the first cone. Again, you don't have to enter until that 3rd cone, but entering early, ton of angle, ton of smoke, gets you super wide in that first outer zone, which is what we like to see. Chris does well making his way around that track, but Bexler is holding his own. He is falling a little bit far back, but he's doing a great job, especially being a new driver. Chris is exactly where he needs to be in pretty much every zone, maybe going a tiny bit wide in that first outer zone, but hey, I think we can forgive him based on that entry.
Yeah, this is definitely why Chris Meyer has taken away a few wins and multiple Gambler rounds here. All right, second half of the battle here. As Bexler now in that lead in that S13. 14, my apologies, S13, it's a hatch. Going up against outside 1 as Chris Meyer starts putting the pressure on as Bexler works his way through the completion of outside 1, jumping into outside 2. Both drivers are working their way into inside clip number 1 as Bexler avoids it, but Chris Meyer follows Bexler's line throughout inside 1 and dumps back in behind inside 2. A crazy transition out of Meyer, a crispy transition out of Meyer as they work their way into outside zone number 2, outside zone and back into the hairpin as Meyer's keeping that proximity behind Bexler's S13. Chris gives him a little bit of rotation, lets Bexler work his way up, takes his line to the selection, and works his way through the bank as Chris Meyer keeping that proximity across the finish line. That was crispy.
Man, gets the juices flowing. We really do like that run. Now take note, all the drivers out there, all the crew, that is where you want to be as a chase driver in that bank turn. Nice and high and tight against them, just a little bit far back, so that was phenomenal in my opinion. Bexler's doing a great job on the lead run, but Chris is just all over him in the chase. He transitioned in that center section like inches from that bumper, may have even grazed it. Bexler could have gone deeper in that hairpin. Unfortunately, he's leaving some points on the board there, but then they're going to transition into that last zone. That's exactly what you want to see, where Chris is right on his door. Great chase job by Chris Meyer.
And the judges have a decision. Chris Meyer in that V8 powered E46 gets the win. Chris Meyer gets the win, stealing that Frito Motorsports Let It Ride token and doubling that South Bay Fuel Injectors Let It Ride token to $50. We still only have 2 men left standing in our last man standing pot. Chris Meyer, who just took that win, moving his way into the Final Four, and Joe Cleary, who has to take out Doug Santana to work his way into the Final Four. If Joe can stay in the competition, he will see Chris Meyer, where they will battle it out hand to hand for their last man standing pot. So, Sarah, what's going on in the background here? Because I haven't been paying attention.
Well, we have only a few more battles here in this bracket, and this is when it starts to get a little bit hairy. So we've had 2 drivers that need a competition timeout for different reasons. Super strange, you don't see this often. John Da Silva, he took a competition timeout, I guess from going off track, that crazy entry he did behind Daniels, but then Daniels also needed a competition timeout. He straightened right after that second outer zone. I assume maybe a mechanical failure there. But we're going to try to move on, so we need Doug Santana to the line. Let's go. We need some hustle as well. We're going to run Santana and Cleary, so we need to see both those drivers heading up to the burnout box right now, or you will be sacrificing that 5-minute.
Just to recap here, Nick D'Alessio sitting with $100 thanks to Drift HQ with Let It Ride tokens. On the other, down lower on the bracket, Adam Daniels, who just is taking the duration of his Competition 5 timeout, is holding on to a TireStacks.com $25 Let It Ride. On the other side of the bracket, Chris Meyer, who just worked his way into the Final Four, holding on to $50 thanks to South Bay Fuel Injectors and stealing that Frito Motorsports, resetting its value to $25, taking that into the Final Four, where he's looking for the verdict of our next battle up on the line, Doug Santana and Joe Cleary, where Santana's holding on to $25 Let It Ride thanks to East Coast Drift School. At this time, we are paging Dr. Santana and Dr. Cleary. Please report to the operating room. We need you for battle.
All right, we have some bad news here. Adam Daniels is not going to make his competition timeout, unfortunately. We hate to see that. We want to see more battles and buy runs. We are going to send up Da Silva here to take that buy run. All right, so we're going to be seeing De Silva warm up in the burnout box here and get ready to do this buy run. Now, as Perez so eloquently put it earlier, all he needs to do is take this run, which means drive around the track if he likes, or he can drift this if you want to take a practice run. Make sure your car is 100% because he did just take that competition timeout. So we're getting a little bit more info about Adam Daniels and his competition timeout. Unfortunately, he did break an axle. Again, we're going to guess right around that second outer zone, and he had to go replace that axle, which is a tall order in the 5 minutes that they're allotted. His team did get super close, so great job to all of those crew members, but unfortunately, they couldn't get it done. All right, here we see De Silva's buy run. Just going to take this here and make sure his car is suitable for competition.
Hey, Bruno. Bruno. Hey, bud, over here. Keep vibey. Keep it vibey. I see you, bud. Keep it vibey. We have Joe Cleary in the burnout box right now warming up his tires. He's going to see battle up against Doug Santana. Santana holding on to $25 thanks to East Coast Drift School. This is for the last spot in the Final Four. Who's going to go up against Chris Meyer? Is it going to be Doug Santana in that blue E46 BMW or Joe Cleary in that black Nissan S14? Both of these cars are V8 powered. I believe have similar horsepower levels. Both these guys are out here ripping on any sort of club loose track day or any chance they can get an opportunity to be out here on this road course. Both these guys have a ton of experience driving here. Santana has been competing with our Gambler Series here at Raceway Park for a while, and Joe Cleary, this is his first bracketed event here. All right, looks like we have Santana limping it in. It sounds broken. The Santana camp just threw down their beverages, sprinted out of the bleachers here. It looks like Santana's going to have to put an axle into the BMW real quick. He's going to have to call his competition 5 there to change an axle. Him and his team will have 5 minutes to put a new axle in that car, where he's holding on to that East Coast Drift School Let It Ride token of $25, and he doesn't want to lose it to Joe Cleary. Joe Cleary would love to go into the Final Four, where he's one of the 2 men last standing in the last man standing pot, going up against Chris Meyer, where he will see on the other side of his Final Four if he can pull away a victory here. On the other side of the bracket, just to update you, if you are joining us on live stream, thanks to Facebook and YouTube, we have Nick D'Alessio going up against De Silva on the other side. Nick D'Alessio with that Drift HQ Let It Ride token of $100 going up against De Silva with that TireStacks.com, which he stole from Daniels out of their weird double competition 5 timeout bracket from the last bracket in the top 16. Just hang tight as we gather up some drivers here, grab some snacks, maybe a quick bathroom break, and we'll get right back to the action here shortly. All right, looks like we have wrangled up our drivers. We're going to have D'Alessio. We're going to have D'Alessio versus De Silva. D'Alessio holding on to that Drift HQ $100 Let It Ride token, going up against De Silva with that TireStacks.com $25 that he stole from Adam Daniels with his recent win, moving himself into the Final Four. Attention drivers and crew, you will be required to return to grid for our 3rd place consolation battle. I repeat, drivers and crew, please communicate to your drivers that you are responsible to return to grid for your consolation 3rd place battle. All right, we got De Silva locking himself in, taking that lead position first with D'Alessio in that 1J powered S13 coupe in the burnout box right now, warming up his tires. He'll lock himself into the chase position. Both these drivers with over $100 of Let It Ride tokens on the line. Someone's taking that money into the finals where their values will lock in. All right, it looks like we have De Silva locked in. D'Alessio taking a stepped back approach to the chase position. There he goes. No more Hopquake starts? Oh, no more Hopquake starts. If you guys are unaware what a Hopquake start is, it's basically when Brian Hopp had to start from Wawa to get the Gambler done. He had long gear in his transmission, forcing him to increase the run-up time. But we don't allow any more Hopquake starts anymore as we get into our De Silva versus D'Alessio, with De Silva in the lead and D'Alessio to chase. De Silva works his way in to get into position. The outside zone number 1 as D'Alessio falls right behind him. Both drivers do a great job falling into outside zone number 1 as D'Alessio starting to put the pressure on. as the Silva's giving him the real estate to work as they work their way into outside zone number 2, as Alessio jumps back to the side, and Silva completely avoiding that inside clip, but transitioning into that second inside clip, and Alessio takes the line choice to get right back to the backside of the S13 of Silva, as both drivers jump into that outside zone. Alessio starting to apply the power to close that gap back into the hairpin, and shake shot himself, and a mistake out of Alessio! Alessio and Silva hung the hairpin. And D'Alessio tried to clean up that proximity and follow through as DeSilvia as they crossed the finish line almost similarly.
Yeah, we're going to need to see that again because specifically in the hairpin, it looked as if De Silva went super a lot of angle and maybe slowed up. I don't know if that caused D'Alessio to straighten. The judges are going to give us the decision on that, but D'Alessio definitely pulled out of drift behind him, so unfortunately.
Yeah, we definitely don't want our drivers doing any sort of quirky things within our areas. Those judges strategically placed so the fact that it's placed in a factor that once our drivers enter that judge zone, they should be locked into their inputs, doing very minimal work to keep the car where it is. Obviously, it's very difficult to get these cars exactly where they need to be, but as you can see here, both drivers doing a great job locking in their inputs to outside 1 and even through outside 2. But this is where it starts getting weird as De Silva gets a little bit of a dirt tire in, and D'Alessio is forced to back off and show a little bit of patience to let that line work for him as he jumps back to that outside zone. That V8-powered car of De Silva, you can showcase the wheel speed picking up a lot faster. D'Alessio takes a little bit of a sacrifice to jump back, maybe a little aggressive a move, and maybe underestimated how fast De Silva was going to get through that hairpin.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's going to need to come down to whether or not De Silva kept his momentum through that outer zone of the hairpin, outer zone 4, or if he did choke up. It's looking to me like he did keep momentum even though he put a ton of angle on, but again, that's going to be a call for our judges. We're going to see the second run right now.
And you can see this awesome drone shot from our live stream as D'Alessio has to work his way through the chicane, and we're going to chase down as De Silva chases him down with his S13. That S13 Coupe, or D'Alessio enters in well before the last initiation point as both drivers working in outside 1. D'Alessio entered into outside 1 a little late as De Silva falls back in the formation as both drivers jump up to outside zone number 2. D'Alessio just clicks into outside 2 as it curls back into that first inside clip, doing a much better job there than De Silva did, as De Silva showing some patience behind D'Alessio, working their way through inside clip number 2. Both drivers working their way and dumping into that outside zone. D'Alessio gets nice and wide, but De Silva's not far behind him as both drivers transition up to the hairpin as D'Alessio dumps it into the outside zone. De Silva gets a little wider and trying to dump the wheel speed on D'Alessio's S13 Coupe as they go over that reference point into our last outside zone, and D'Alessio avoiding that banco zone all weekend long, but De Silva not far behind him across the finish line.
Yeah, great job by De Silva in the chase position there. He stayed close to D'Alessio through that entire run. D'Alessio, we can see right now, nice and wide in that first outer zone. Good transition, not quite all the way to outer zone 2, but a great job on that inner clip. Even through the whole thing, De Silva's right on his door as they come through that center section right up to outer zone 3. D'Alessio's doing a great job putting his car in that outer zone, and De Silva's doing a great job of staying on his door through this entire spot. D'Alessio does pull away a little bit in that fourth outer zone right on the hairpin. He wasn't quite as deep as we want to see, and he's not quite as high as we want to see in that last outer zone of the bank turn.
Both these drivers doing a phenomenal job, nonetheless, of navigating their way through the road course here at Raceway Park for the Gambler. Nick D'Alessio piloting a very old 2013 FD car, and as well as John De Silva piloting that V8-powered S13 of himself. Both these cars are definitely dialed in. These guys were throwing down throughout practice, and it's just a matter of nitpicking their mistakes and their choices throughout here with the nerves and everything else going on. Both these drivers are definitely throwing down. We're waiting on our judges to finish deliberating, reviewing the very same footage you guys are seeing on the live stream, both here and at home. Thank you guys for joining us both on the internet and here at Raceway Park. Make sure you guys get over to racewaypark.com to get set up for a potential November event of the Gambler. We'll call it the bonus round. And the judges have come to a decision. De Silva will get the win. De Silva stealing that $100 Drift HQ token from D'Alessio, resetting its value into the finals. And De Silva is going to walk into the finals with 2 Let It Ride tokens thanks to Drift HQ and TireStacks.com.
All right, now we are getting word that Doug Santana is not going to make that 5 minutes. He also had an axle the same as Daniels. An axle is really tough to replace in 5 minutes. Shout out to his crew doing everything they can to get him back on the track. Like I said before, we don't want to see these byruns. We want to see some great battles, so that is unfortunate. But we believe that Cleary is going to go ahead because Santana cannot continue competition.
So going into our finals here, our final four on the other side of the bracket, we have Chris Meyer going up against Joe Cleary. Both these guys are the last man standing in our last man standing pot, where hundreds of dollars are on the line, and the winner of that next battle will take all of that cash. Not only that, but Chris Meyer is hanging on to $50 thanks to South Bay Fuel Injectors and $25 thanks to Frito Motorsports. And Joe Cleary is hanging on to $25 thanks to East Coast Drift School. So all those Let It Ride tokens will change hands to the victor of the next battle, and they'll lock in their values, whatever they are, into the finals, where they'll go up against John Da Silva, who's holding on to a Drift HQ $25 Let It Ride, and a TireStacks.com $50 Let It Ride token. Those tokens have definitely taken a hell of a ride throughout our competition here today, changing hands multiple times, keeping their values relatively low. Every once in a while, those values jump up to hundreds of dollars very quickly, depending if someone's on a tear or not. It looks like we got Chris Meyer's tires warmed up, and he's locked into that chase position. Yep, chase position for Chris Meyer. Well, Joe Cleary. Is Meyer's leading? All right, Chris Meyer's leading. There we go. Depth perception. Chris Meyer is going to take in that lead position. Joe Cleary to chase. All right, it looks like we're getting the word to let him go. Waiting for the ambers to illuminate on that repurposed drag tree here at Raceway Park. The ambers are illuminated on both sides. And the green lights go. Looks like we need a clean start out of Chris Meyer and that E46 out of the chicane. It looks like we got a clean one. And Joe Cleary right behind him in that black S14 right initiates, goes down into outside zone number 1. Chris Meyer doing a great job getting the outside one, but Joe Cleary not far behind him. Joe Cleary with a little bit of a mistake, maybe thinking he was going to make contact with Chris Meyer's E46. Both drivers work their way into outside 2. Joe Cleary, you can see wrestling through that mistake, cleaning it up to inside clip number 1 as both drivers transition to inside clip number 2. Chris Meyer doing a great job dumping that car out into the outside zone, and Joe Cleary trying to clean that proximity up as they both work their way through that outside zone. And Joe Cleary right on the backside, and maybe a little bit too much of a brake stab to save his car over the backside of the E46 of Chris Meyer. As both drivers transition through the reference point, and Joe Cleary's like, I'm not done playing, bud, I'm coming back.
Dang, that's a tough one. The hairpin claims another victim there. That is unfortunate. So we saw the Chris Meyer big entry. He's pretty much doing the first outer zone perfectly. That's exactly what we want to see. Nice and smooth all the way to the edge. They're coming around to the infield. Cleary's doing a great job staying on his door as much as possible. Chris is a very fast and smooth driver, so that's a great chase job by Cleary. Unfortunately, when it comes down to the transition for that hairpin turn, that last outer zone, Cleary just, I guess, transitions a little bit early, comes up a little bit short, unfortunately straightens out, and that's going to put him at a huge disadvantage going into his lead run.
I like to call that running out of real estate. Joe putting himself into a scenario where he was unable to keep barking forward without causing significant damage or running over somebody through the hairpin, but he did a great and fantastic job. Joe Cleary with that S14 now taking the lead position, going up against Chris Meyer, taking the chase position with that VA-powered E46. Joe Cleary with his VA-powered Nissan now taking the lead, jumps into outside zone number 1, and Chris Meyer right behind him. Joe Cleary doing a great job through outside 1, and Chris Meyer's not far behind him as that drone taking a quick snap to outside zone number 2. As you can see, Joe Cleary and Chris Meyer both still in formation going through inside clip number 1 and transition up to inside clip number 2. Chris Meyer giving him a little bit of room, waiting for Joe to make his decision, jumping into the outside zone as Chris Meyer falls back in the formation as both drivers jump into the hairpin outside zone. Chris Meyer trying to keep that proximity out as Joe Cleary's S14 is zooting around that hairpin with that car slammed down to the ground, planted as he's applying the throttle all the way up and through the rear bank here as Chris Meyer is right behind him across the finish line.
Not bad. That was a great job in the lead position. Cleary's putting it all out there because he knows he's at a disadvantage. Super big entry, super, super deep in the first outer zone. And I think he does a better job than Chris at getting in that second outer zone. He is a little bit off that inner clip there. That's a tough one for a lot of the drivers. But he's doing great filling all the rest of those zones. Unfortunately, Chris is knocking on the door. He's right on his door for this entire run. So it's looking like that mistake in his chase run by Cleary is going to be the most limiting factor. Unfortunately, I'm thinking Chris Meyer is going to get the win here.
And it looks like you're going to be right, Sarah. Chris Meyer gets the win. Chris Meyer gets the win, walking his way into the finals with $100 thanks to South Bay Fuel Injectors, $50 thanks to Frito Motorsports, and $25 thanks to East Coast Drift School. At this time, we need our third place battle contestants to pull up to the line. Joe Cleary and Nick D'Alessio. Joe Cleary and Nick D'Alessio, please report to the grid for your third place battle immediately. All right, we're going to get Joe Cleary back into the pits where him and his team are going to put some fresh rubber underneath of that V8-powered S14 while we allow Joe to put on new tires for his third-place contention battle up against Nick Delicious D'Alessio. We're going to give you guys a short break as well. This would be a great time to grab some snacks from the food truck. Stop in at Sneaky Pete's Bar here at Raceway Park, or stop in at home. Pause your live stream. Make sure you don't miss any of the action. We'll be back here about 10 minutes back to the action. 10 minutes. We'll get back to the action here at Raceway Park, the Gambler, here on the road course. And we do have a winner of our last man standing pot. Chris Meyer gets the last man pot all to himself, all that cash, winner take all. Congratulations, Chris Meyer, being our last man standing here at this round of the Gambler. Like I said, we'll be right back to the action here momentarily. Hang with us. right, we have our drivers into the burnout box for our third place consolation round. Joe Cleary going up against Nick D'Alessio. Joe Cleary with that V8 powered Zenki S14 going up against that S13 Sylvia of Nick D'Alessio powered by a 1JZ. Both these drivers taking their losses into the Final Four are battling it out now for our third place position, our last place up on the box here at Raceway Park the Gambler. Our judges are ready. It's golden hour here at the Raceway Park road course. And here we go, Joe Cleary taking that lead position. D'Alessio. Drivers initiate well before the last initiation point and working their way to outside zone number 1. And Joe Cleary doing a great job as Nick D'Alessio falls in the formation right behind the S14 and Joe Cleary. As both drivers transition up and Nick D'Alessio getting aggressive into outside zone 2. A very off place to put it in aggression and a very cool place to see D'Alessio still holding that proximity through inside clip 1 and 2 as both drivers transition out to the outside zone. Cleary gets out to the outside zone. D'Alessio waiting for Joe to make his move, make his decision final as D'Alessio jumps to the side of the S14 going into that outside zone through the hairpin. D'Alessio doing a great job staying to the side of the S14 to Joe Cleary as both drivers transition. D'Alessio doing a great job over that reference point as Joe Cleary up and wide as D'Alessio a little low but follows them all the way across the bank and over the finish line. A solid third place battle here and I'm excited to see them swap position and do it again.
Hey, did someone not tell them that this is not the finals? Because this was a crazy battle. D'Alessio is all over Cleary. You can tell these guys, you know, the pressure's kind of off. They're battling for third place. They're both in the top 4. That's really nice. So he's just throwing it out there. Cleary doing a great job. He does miss this zone here, this third outer zone, unfortunately. D'Alessio's still knocking on his door this whole way. Nice smooth transition by both drivers into that hairpin. You'll love to see it. And they're going to transition again into the bank where Cleary just puts it absolutely all the way up there. So great job in the lead by Cleary. Great job in the chase by D'Alessio.
Like Sarah stated, they are doing a phenomenal job, and this is just our third place battle. We're still waiting to see our final battle between John Da Silva and Chris Meyer. We're going to send the second half of this third place battle right now as Nick D'Alessio now sitting in the lead position going up against Joe Cleary to chase. And the green light is illuminated on our second half of this third place battle. Joe Cleary going up against Nick D'Alessio. D'Alessio in the lead, crazy wide and then super early into outside 1 as D'Alessio pulls a little off, but Joe Cleary right there on the side of the S13 of Nick D'Alessio as both drivers transitioned up into that sun into outside zone number 2. As Cleary's S14 takes showing a little bit of patience diving into the inside clip 1 as D'Alessio trying to curl it back in and inside clip number 2. D'Alessio doing a great job navigating through those 2 inside clips. Joe Cleary! A little too much sauce as Nick D'Alessio needs to hold his composure, but finishing off his run solid here. Going over that reference point, flicks it up into the bank, and finally getting into that outside zone, Nick D'Alessio. Keeping it delicious here as Joe Cleary finishes off his run, making a small mistake into that outside zone and causing a spin. We'll have to lean on the judges, but I think that's going to throw away his third place opportunities here. And that is a crazy thing to say because I believe that this is Joe Cleary's first competition.
That's insane. I would almost not believe you, judging by how he's been driving all day. Unfortunately, sometimes when you throw it in deep, you can't bring it back out. He did take a big risk there. If it did pay off, he would have been absolutely in proximity. But unfortunately, it didn't work out, and he did just go ahead and stop drifting. This is hilarious because D'Alessio, I think that's the highest he's been on the bank all day, and no one was chasing him, unfortunately. But he is going to get the third place win, I believe, which is great. It's great to see him on the podium this time, and that's going to warm us up for our finals.
And as our drivers are warming up their tires right now, you guys at home on the live stream are watching the replay of Joe Cleary, a first-time competitive driver coming all the way down for the Gambler from the minimum payment racing guys, dragged him all the way out, brought a buddy out to spot for him, and he's out here in contention for getting on the box over here on the road course at Raceway Park. But Nick D'Alessio is going to walk away with that third place position after throwing it down here at Raceway Park. We have Chris Meyer locked in to his battle position going up against John Da Silva. Da Silva piloting that V8-powered S13 hatch going up against that black E46, also powered by a V8 of Chris Meyer. Our judges are ready. The ambers are illuminated. And the green's on. We need a clean start out of the chicane out of Chris Meyer and his E46, and it looks like we do, as John DeSilva is going to chase him down the straight here. Chris Meyer clicks in well before the last initiation point, diving into that outside zone number 1, giving plenty of time for DeSilva to jump into formation right behind that E46 and Chris Meyer, as both drivers working their way into outside zone number 2. And DeSilva trying to keep that pressure on through outside zone 2 as Chris Meyer pulls it into that inside clip. DeSilva's S13 looking like he's trying to fight for that real estate to get back to the side of the door of the E46 and Chris Myers. Chris goes into the outside zone, going into the hairpin. Chris flicks it in, transitions up. A little lackluster from DeSilva's transition to get back in the proximity, falling into the quarter battle. Right now it's Chris Meyer, and DeSilva lost in the smoke, jumps out, follows Chris Meyer up in the high line, higher on the bank as Chris Meyer riding deep into that zone. Chris Meyer keeping it crispy out here. And John DeSilva trying to chase down that crazy VA-powered E46 of Chris Meyer. Sarah, do you have any inputs here for Chris?
I mean, I think he's been on set it and forget it all day because he's giving us those big smoky entries that we've been seeing since practice. It's gorgeous. We love to see it. Filling all of those zones pretty much completely. Big flick into that hairpin outer zone. But DeSilva is right on his door there. They're transitioning over that reference point. Absolutely beautifully, super smooth, and he is so high on the bank. That's what we want to see. Let's switch him around and let's see how he does in the chase run.
As you can tell, even Sarah's getting excited here in the finals here. Raceway Park, the Gambler. Don't forget to sign up for the bonus round of the Gambler sometime in November. Make sure you stop in at racewaypark.com and get signed up immediately. First come, first serve as we get the second half of our final battle here with hundreds of dollars on the line thanks to Drift HQ, TireStacks.com, South Bay Fuel Injectors, Frito Motorsports, and East Coast Drift School. We have Chris Meyer now sitting in that chase position with that black E46 BMW going up against John DeSilva with that V8-powered S13. Green light is on, and it looks like we have a clean start, and both drivers shoot down the straight here. They need to initiate before that last initiate point, and before I even get out of my mouth, both drivers are initiated. Working their way into the outside zone number 1, and DeSilva doing a great job, and Chris Meyer getting a little stabby there, but keeping his proximity as he gets out into the outside zone number 2. Chris Meyer trying to match the angle of DeSilva going into that first inside clip, and Chris coming out of a drift, just a tiny bit, but starting to reinitiate and getting past the inside clip number 2. Chris is trying to clean up that proximity as Silvia gets out to the outside of the zone and folds it back in. Chris Meyer trying to clean that up, jumps back to the side of the hairpin. Chris Meyer with a little bit of a jump out. Silva doing a great job filling that outside zone and works way over the reference point. Both drivers flick up to the outside, and Chris Meyer gets super tight across the finish line, and we have a drag race.
Wow. That is exciting. You can tell it's the finals. Both of these drivers are going absolutely flat out. You can see in the end there, Chris making up for giving him a little bit of space going into that center section by being absolutely glued to the side of DeSilva's car in that final outer zone. Now, DeSilva's doing a great job of getting close to those zones. He doesn't quite fill this last outer zone as, oh, I'm just kidding. He actually does fill that last outer zone. Might leave it a little bit early, but Chris is right on his door in the hairpin. They're both nice and deep there, coming to transition out across that reference point and into the bank turn. You can see a little bit of contact there, but they both keep it straight. Great driving by both lead and chase driver.
As you can see there, John DeSilva, I know these boys like to party, so he's no stranger to a little rubbing out here. And Chris Myers definitely give it to him. It was really awesome to watch those guys almost wrestle it over the finish line here at Raceway Park, the Gambler. We're going to have to lean on our judges as they review the footage here in the live stream. So if you haven't already, tune into the live stream so you can see the drone footage. If you're tuned in at home, make sure you guys hang back and just hang tight. We'll get back to the action here as soon as the judges are done deliberating.
We've got a pretty loud crowd here at Raceway Park. Hey guys, make some noise if you want to see Chris Meyer take the win. All right, let's hear it if you want to see John DeSilva take the win. All right, now who wants to see it one more time? Yeah, I think the one more times might have it. I hope to see these guys go one more time. That was a super, super exciting run, and we'll wait to see what the judges have to say.
At this time, can I get our third place winner to report to the bleacher area? I need our third place winner to report to the bleachers area. With his vehicle. Not a beer, a vehicle. All right, I'm making banter here. I'm filling time, all right? Don't yell at me. You're not my mom. And we have a verdict. All right, so I'm sitting here trying to get the details out of Jeff Stoneback and the rest of our judges of the decision here. And we have a verdict. Chris Meyer and John DeSilva are going to go one more time. All right, Stoneback, I'm putting you on the spot now. You got to explain to the people, both here and on the internet, where did this decision come from?
So this decision came from Chris Meyer's lead run was amazing, but John DeSilva's proximity was right on his door pretty much the entire time. John's, when you reverse the roles, John's lead lap was good, wasn't as good as Chris's, but Chris Meyer just didn't have the proximity, and we just figured it definitely needs to run one more time. They both, one doesn't outweigh the other.
And you heard it from the man himself, Jeff Stoneback, on the final decision of why all three judges have come to a unanimous decision of a one more time battle. Definitely reviewing the footage, trying to go tit for tat, but we want to see a clean battle out of these guys, so make some noise for John DeSilva and Chris Meyer as them and their team work back into the pits, get some fresh tires underneath those machines, and we'll be back to the actions here at the finals at Raceway Park, the Gambler. And jumping right into our final battle, Chris Meyer taking that lead position, going up against John DeSilva's S13 hat. And both drivers doing a fantastic job. Chris getting nice and deep, maybe having to make a little bit of correction on the exit of outside 1, but getting into outside 2 as John DeSilva trying to close that proximity gap. Both drivers working their way to the inside clip 1 as Meyer takes out that front clip. DeSilva transitions, and DeSilva with a massive mistake. As Chris Meyer working his way into the dropping sunlight here around our road course through the hairpin. And it looks like John DeSilva's car is not moving under its own power. And Chris Meyer, and there we go, John DeSilva is getting his car back on. It does not sound happy. Hey Jeff Stoneback, you hear that? That's a V8. Big V8. Unfortunate for John DeSilva, looking like his car may have had a slight malfunction going through that inner clip section here at Raceway Park. Chris Meyer throwing it up into the bank, keeping it nice and spicy, nice and dialed through this outside zone throughout the hairpin. He transitions down, flicks over that that reference point into that last outside zone. Chris Meyer doing a fantastic job on his lead lap. Unfortunately for John DeSilva, just not what he needed to do in the chase position.
I would agree. Again, what we said earlier, unfortunately, sometimes when you try to get super saucy, you oversauce, and that's what happens. Them's the breaks when they're driving at the absolute edge of their ability. It does put on a great show for us, but unfortunately, sometimes you swing and you miss. But here they're going to go again.
All right, we have our roles reversed. Hopefully, John DeSilva's car can stay in an operating mode in the lead position. He's going to get chased down by Chris Meyer in his E46 BMW. John DeSilva working his way into outside zone for 1. Chris Meyer trying to put the pressure on. A little bit of a bobble of DeSilva. He starts to apply the pressure as Chris Meyer trying to follow it through the outside zone number 2. John DeSilva works his way into inside clip number 1 as Chris Meyer following him through, giving him a little bit of patience and room to work through those inside clips. Both drivers transitioning and dump into that outside zone as DeSilva trying to pull into that outside zone. Chris Meyer trying to hold that proximity and trying to close that gap as they work their way into the hairpin. Chris Meyer trying to put that proximity on now. Working his way through the line. Chris Meyer needs to hold a little bit of patience, make sure he doesn't make any mistakes here. Flicks it up in the bank and follows DeSilva in like a man all the way across the finish line. Chris Meyer throwing it down, has smoke coming in and out of his vehicle all over the place, with John DeSilva thrown in through the lead. But unfortunately, I don't know if it's going to be enough. I think we have a verdict out of the judges, but we're going to pull our drivers over to the box behind the bleachers right in front here of Sneaky Pete's Bar right here trackside. For you guys joining us on the live stream, just give us a few moments to wrangle in our drivers, get some of our fans over to our box, get a few drinks in our hand to celebrate who's going to take home the win here at Raceway Park, the Gambler. Thank you guys for joining us here today at Raceway Park, the Gambler. Thank you for your patience as we gathered up our drivers and our results. We'll start with our third place finisher here today. Make some noise, winner of $1,000 to take home via check, Nick D'Alessio. Hey, Nick, come here, bud. Let's chit-chat. You already got a drink in your hand. You're already celebrating. So how has your experience been here at the Gambler? What's today like for you?
Just a ton of fun. It's like driving a Club Loose event.
It's awesome to hear. So do you have any recommendations for anybody that would want to get into the Gambler?
Sign up.
Simple, man. Words. Just sign up for your Gambler. Make some noise for your third place finisher here, Nick D'Alessio. Our second place finisher here today at Raceway Park, the Gambler. A hard-fought battle bracket throughout the entire day. Make some noise for John Da Silva. And that means taking home over $4,000 in winnings today. Make some noise for Chris Meyer, your number one finisher here at Raceway Park, the Gambler. All right, Chris, you know I'm going to talk to you too, but I'm pretty sure my range of my mic is limited, so you're going to have to do a little bit. Come here, bud. Bring it in. All right, bud. You had a rough day. You had to do a couple changes. You were pretty solid throughout practice. Do you have any input, anything you want to shout out to, any thank yous?
Thank you to my dad for changing tires. Thanks to my family. Thanks to my girlfriend. Thanks, Kendrick, for judging pretty well. And that's it.
You had to throw that in there. Make some noise for Chris Meyer in his number one position here at Raceway Park, the Gambler. Because I'm going to leave you alone, Da Silva. You're doing a hell of a time today. Congratulations today on your finish of second place, taking home some cash money. You got any thank yous, anything you want to say to anybody out there?
I want to thank all the boys for helping me out, my spotter, Wallison, and everyone that supported in the
Awesome here. Make some noise for Da Silva one more time and everybody else that competed here at the E-Town Gambler. Thank you guys for joining us here and at Raceway Park and on the live stream. We'll see you next time.